Chapter 72. When Fang Zhao walked out, a large group of people stared at him. They scanned him from head to toe. They wanted to know who was the person great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang had been talking to for over an hour. "He's nothing special," someone whispered. "Never seen him. Never heard of him before. He's just like that. What's so special about him that the two elders kept talking to him for so long?" Second uncle saw Fang Zhao come out and hurriedly asked, "What took you so long? Great-grandfather and great-grandmother aren't mad, right?" Second aunt gave him a sidelong glance. He made it sound like Fang Zhao's presence would incur the wrath of the two elders. "How are the two elders feeling?" Second aunt asked. "Pretty good. Very spirited," Fang Zhao replied. "Seems like great-grandfather quite likes you after talking for so long," Fang Yu said. Fang Zhao smiled but didn't say anything. Sensing the gazes around them, second aunt pulled Fang Zhao aside and asked in a low voice, "Fang Zhao, did great-grandfather give you a red packet?" "Yes, 10 years worth." Second aunt knew what to do. She didn't ask how much it was. She just wanted to know great-grandfather and great-grandmother's attitude. Being able to remember Fang Zhao, compensate him with 10 years worth of red packets, and chat for so long, it seemed like great-grandfather was in a good mood. The two elders were just talking about their military service back then, so it took a bit longer, Fang Zhao said. Fang Zhao's voice wasn't loud, but it was just loud enough for the curious onlookers to hear. Hearing that great-grandfather was talking about military service again, the onlookers had a look of understanding on their faces. No wonder it took so long. Great-grandfather was reminiscing about the past. Since this was the reason, their curiosity dissipated. Perhaps because he had talked too much with Fang Zhao. Great-grandfather didn't want to talk much after the others entered the room. It was great-grandmother Fang who did the talking, but not much. Great-grandfather Fang's mood soured again when he saw the stammering and timid juniors. But as an elder, it wasn't appropriate for him to lose his temper with children. He couldn't smile and could only keep a straight face. This made the timid juniors even more fearful of him. Great-grandfather Fang motioned for great-grandmother Fang to speak less, and quickly gave them the red packets, so they could leave. Wasn't that the reason they were here was for the red packets? Or he would ask the two elders for help or something like that. It was annoying to hear. Old Master and Old Madam knew that they had ulterior motives, and were willing to help them when they came to ask for help. As for those who were not seen all year round, and asked for red packets when they saw them, it was already good enough that they didn't slap you in the face. You still wanted more. Faced with these people, great-grandfather Fang deeply felt that he might as well drag Fang Zhao along for a chat. When second uncle and his family went over, Old Master Fang asked a few more questions. He asked about Fang Yu's military service, and was surprised to learn that it had already been resolved. Fang Zhao did not take the initiative to say it, and second uncle was worried that it would bring trouble for Fang Zhao if he said too much, so they did not tell anyone else. However, in front of great-grandfather Fang, second uncle still mentioned it. Fang Zhao settled it? Who did he ask for help? The old master was curious. After second uncle and his family had left, great-grandfather Fang asked great-grandmother Fang, "Say, what do you think that kid Fang Zhao is thinking? You obviously have the ability to get a place in the military. So why are you here talking about military service? Do you really want us to give you a reference?" "How would I know?" The old lady was also surprised. She had not expected Fang Zhao to be so capable at such a young age. It seemed like she had misunderstood Fang Zhao all along. "TSK, I still think that kid is up to no good." Great-grandfather Fang's thoughts started to drift. "If you are really worried, pay attention to the news," great-grandmother Fang said. Second uncle and his family, who had already left the house, did not know what great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang were thinking. After checking on the two elders, they went straight back. On the way back, Fang Zhao sat in the train and watched the screens on the tall buildings he passed. News and announcements about Battle of the Century were playing. This year was destined to be a year of revelry for gaming fans. The year had just begun. Battle of the Century had not even been released yet, but the flames were already burning. Gaming media outlet Rising Dragon had organized online voting for each continent's spokesperson. It would start with Huangzhou, then the other continents, and in a little while, it would be Yinzhou. Fang Yu searched the news online and saw many media outlets guessing who Fiery Bird would choose as their spokesperson this year. Was it Tangshan True Entertainment's popular idol Miyu? Or Neon Culture's popular candidate Andy Liu? Or could it be Silver Wings Polar Light, which had made a name for itself at the end of last year? Big Brother Zhao, who do you think will win the endorsement? Fang Yu asked. I don't know. That's Fiery Bird's decision, Fang Zhao replied. Speaking of Silver Wings Polar Light, hey Big Brother Zhao, is this you? Fang Yu showed Fang Zhao a screenshot. It was a mosaic of the closing credits of the music videos for the 3 movements of the 100-year period of Destruction series. The producer's name was highlighted. Fang Zhao glanced at it and nodded. That's me. Fang Yu took a deep breath. Big Brother Zhao. What? Big Brother Zhao, can you get Macchiato's autograph card? Fang Yu asked. Fang Zhao knew of Macchiato. She was a popular Silver Wing star in the film industry. She was pretty sweet, but Fang Zhao had never worked with her before, so he did not know much about the industry. You want it? I'll go back to the office and ask. I'll send you some if I have it, Fang Zhao said. Me too. Me too. Fang Qi said excitedly. Big Brother Zhao, I want Vicky's. If you can get your hands on Vicky's autograph card, you have to keep it for me. Vicky was also a film star signed by Silver Wing. She worked in the film industry and was considered an A-list star. However, Fang Zhao had not expected Fang Qi to be a fan of Vicky's. Sure, I'll keep it for you if I can get it. Fang Zhao smiled at Fang Ling. Little Bell, do you have a favorite star? If it's also from Silver Wing, I can help you get an autograph card. Fang Ling thought about it and shook her head. Then she took out the card that a sister in the retirement facility had given her. When the card was placed on the card reader, it displayed a cartoon image of someone singing and reciting poems. It was an early childhood education card. Fang Ling took out the card and handed it to Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao was a little puzzled. For me? Fang Ling blinked. Big Brother Zhao, an autograph. Fang Zhao was stunned for a moment, then smiled. I don't have a pen. I'll sign it for you when we get back. When they got home, Little Belle took out the 20 early childhood education cards she had saved up for Fang Zhao's autograph. She was still young and had never chased after any idols, but she had heard others say that meeting an idol required an autograph. In Little Belle's eyes, Fang Zhao, who had bought her so many candies, was her idol. Fang Yu and Fang Qi also joined in the fun. They took out a few cards for Fang Zhao to sign. Big Brother Zhao, were you the creator of the 100-year period of destruction movements? Fang Yu asked. What do you think? Fang Zhao replied. I don't know either. But Big Brother Zhao, you don't have to explain. I know the confidentiality period for virtual idols. It's all over the internet. Fang Yu felt that the reality was just as the media had speculated. The producer and team that Silver Wing had put out on the surface were just a cover. The real creator was still hiding behind the scenes. Who was it? Ming Song had revealed that there was only one person, not a team. The answer would only be revealed when the 4th movement was released. But even so, not everyone could be a shield. In any case, Fang Yu and the others felt that Fang Zhao, who had the title of producer and could be used as a shield, was already very impressive. After Memorial Day, Fang Zhao stayed in Yanbei for another 3 days before returning to Qian City. As the voting for the Battle of the Century spokesperson neared, the competition between Yinzhou's top 3 entertainment companies intensified. Online promotions began. Every day, the entertainment media was as excited as if they had been injected with 2 large cans of adrenaline. Guangzhou, gaming media company Rising Dragon headquarters. The voting for the 5th continent has already begun. Next up is Yinzhou. Yinzhou has 3 candidates this year? In previous years, Yinzhou has only had 2 contenders, but that was because Silver Wing, one of Yinzhou's top 3 entertainment companies, didn't have a virtual idol. Last year they came up with one. I think it's probably for the sake of the Battle of the Century endorsement. Regardless of Silver Wing's motives, one more competitor means more topics to talk about. It's good for us. Rising Dragon's chief editor contacted the Yinzhou branch. Get ready. Yinzhou's online voting will begin on February 8th. Chapter 73. Starting in the wee hours of February 8th, the internet was abuzz. The big three entertainment companies had long since mobilized their own celebrities, big and small, to canvass for votes. Polar Light, as the only successful virtual idol in Silver Wing, was even more popular. Whether it was newly signed newcomers or A-list celebrities, they all started canvassing for votes. This was the first time in Yinzhou's history that the big three companies were openly competing for virtual idols. However, there were also some people who were more concerned about the release of the new song at 8 a.m. Xue Jing, who was already over 160 years old, did not walk around the park downstairs as usual. Instead, he sat in his study, turned on his audio and video equipment, and waited for 8 a.m. to arrive. On his desk was a notebook and a pen. This was the notebook he planned to use to jot down his thoughts and analysis after listening to the fourth movement. Compared to electronic recording, Xue Jing preferred manual recording. It was more intuitive. Beside his desk was a stack of books. Some were teaching materials written by Xue Jing, while others were books written by others as reference. Many people in the industry felt that Xue Jing's decision to take on the task of analyzing and guiding symphonic compositions was an unwise decision. This genre was too aloof and lacked popularity. Talented people kept their talents to themselves, and what was written in public would surely have no substance. It was all superfluous nonsense. Some people who bought the books would give bad reviews after reading them. Just look at the teaching materials of the past. Whoever wrote it would get scolded. It was an arduous and thankless task. However, Xue Jing would only smile when he heard this. When someone asked him who had contributed, Xue Jing would just smile and not answer. Xue Jing had been analyzing the three movements of the 100-year period of destruction series. The deeper he went, the more astonished he became. He marveled at Feng Zhao's mastery, his boldness, and his progress. In these three movements, there were many techniques that were not popular or had been neglected. However, in these three movements, these techniques perfectly captured the mood of the movements. One more, Xue Jing said in a low voice. Actually, after listening to the first two movements, one could understand the composer's goal and intentions. The third movement was about war, so the fourth movement should be the end. At 8 a.m., Xue Jing turned on the audio and video platform. The music video was clearly presented in front of the audience by the high-end audio and video equipment. The video showed the grim scene at dawn, which was connected to the end of the third movement. A full-scale battle was still going on, but the picture was not gloomy, and the music was not as urgent and depressing. At the beginning of the fourth movement, the two tones, one dark and one bright, alternated. The alto and the bass constructed the vast space between the sky and the earth, giving the music a very vivid picture. The short, accented 16th notes were like the cold wind blowing fiercely at dawn. Every hair on his body could feel the flow of the air. The cello strummed with emphasis, as if the world was trembling from the murderous aura emitted by this fierce battle for survival. The trees were fighting back with all their might. Their bodies were covered in splashes of mud and water. Every branch seemed to be seeping with thick blood and killing intent. With a fearless bravery, they killed all the berserk beasts that were trying to plunder their world. In the combination of trombone and woodwind, there was a muffler. The hard sound was a little hoarse and gloomy. It was like the berserk beasts in the video that were beginning to cower and retreat under the counterattack of the trees. The once ferocious and arrogant bodies of killing had become weak and exhausted. In this cold, howling morning, it was shivering. The difference was that the strength of the woodwinds was accumulating bit by bit. In the video, the valiant trees forced the ferocious faces to retreat step by step. Amidst the slightly hoarse metallic sound, the sinister and murderous aura that belonged to the berserk beast made its final struggle. It opened its bloody mouth wide and roared, trying to put up a brave front. A fist with a murderous aura locked onto the heart of the berserk beast. Like a sharpened spear, it struck without hesitation. The berserk beast that was hit drew an arc in the air and fell into the lake not far away. The surface of the lake split open. The berserk beast that fell and struggled for a while before sinking. There were some broken branches floating on the surface of the lake. The figure looked at the surface of the lake. In the strong string music, there was sorrow that was not breathed out. However, at the same time, the continuous performance of the string music was tenacious and unyielding. Compared to the wind and percussion, the string music had a gentleness to it. However, it was not only gentleness. There was strength in the gentleness. The sorrow was no longer a weak sadness. Instead, it had turned into a strong and explosive force. The figure in the video turned around and ran towards the top of the mountain. There were a few strands of unknown weeds on the ground. They swayed when the figure ran. One by one, the berserk beasts were knocked down and stepped on. The cooperation between the treants was flawless. This was the tacit understanding they had developed through countless battles to the death. They moved forward step by step, climbing higher and higher. When the figure in the video finally stood at the top of the mountain, in the combination of the trombone and woodwind, the accumulated power of the woodwind finally exploded. The woodwind played 3 octaves apart. Under the spacious combination of timbre, there was a wide field of view from the top of the mountain. The battlefield at the foot of the mountain was littered with corpses. There were those of the berserk beasts and those of the treants. However, compared to the beginning, the figures moving about on the ground were not the rampaging berserk beasts, but their companions in the treants. As far as the eye could see, the brave figures of their companions fighting could be seen everywhere. The sound of trumpets and harmonies unfolded. The resounding sound symbolized that this battle was finally coming to an end. The drumbeats were no longer urgent. They were more inspiring. The percussion was based on the timpani that people of the new era were familiar with. It was a combination of even more primitive drum sounds. This was a perfect and magical fusion of sounds from different time and space. It was as if they had endured a long sunless winter. When the figure standing at the top of the mountain raised his head and saw the thick clouds in the sky slowly dispersing, he saw the golden rays of sunlight shining down from the sky. His blood-stained fists, which had just killed an unknown number of berserk beasts, trembled uncontrollably. His eyes were filled with suppressed emotions. He looked as if he would burst into tears at any moment. The sunlight seemed to carry a scorching heat. It melted the sharp edges of their hearts, which had been armed by this battle, and touched the softest part of their hearts. They had seen this kind of sunlight a long, long time ago. It represented warmth and hope. They, too, had once been a group of ordinary creatures who had suffered pain and suffering. They had experienced unimaginable despair and depression. They had struggled and fought in this ice-cold, hopeless situation. What they had won wasn't just freedom and a new life. What they wanted to win was a world. Surging emotions erupted. The shouts from the mountaintop overlapped with the resounding male voice amidst the majestic music. It was as if they had an immeasurable power that wanted to lift the entire world. Amid the broad sounds of the orchestral ensemble, the passionate harmonies were like the revelry of all creatures who had seen the sun again. They celebrated this hard-won victory. The violin playing was like time combing through this newly reborn world. The clouds in the sky hovered above the lake. The lake water, which had been muddy from the battle, became clear. The broken branches and wreckage floating on the lake's surface sank to the bottom. The sparse ground by the lake was already covered with exuberant grass. The rhythm of the compound drums was even more carefree and powerful. Feet made of twigs and twigs stepped on the lush grass and ran. They were not hurried or nervous. Instead, they were excited to the point of crying tears of joy. From today onwards, they would no longer see those cruel and bloodthirsty figures. From today onwards, they would no longer have to wander about and flee for their lives. From today onwards, the world would be a new world. So could they rest? Maybe. Amid the vigorous harmonies, the expansive orchestral music played mightily. The rising strings and drumbeats confirmed each time, indicating that an open picture was about to unfold. The figure at the forefront of the group of trees stood on a high slope. He looked at the figures of his idle and free companions scattered around. He stepped on the soft soil under his feet and revealed a bright and relieved smile. Under the warm sunlight, he relaxed and opened his arms. The knotted branches finally spread out. His sturdy arms turned into branches that stretched out in all directions. His legs once again turned into roots that penetrated deep into the ground and took root. It was as if he had been reborn. After the group of trees found a satisfactory place, they spread out their knotted branches and took root in the ground. Under the illumination of the sun, tender green leaves sprouted from the bare branches. The leaves spread out with the halo of life. Some strange human voices were humming in his ears, and the electronic music created a brand new, magnificent, and colorful world. The different voices of the string group played different roles. It was like the souls of the dead, who had sacrificed themselves in the war, overlooking this new world. It was also like some new, never-before-seen life was whispering. It was also like the excited and complicated voices of the treants, who had taken root in the new land. The corpses of the war were covered by dust and newly grown plants. That disastrous war destroyed a group of lives, but at the same time, it also nurtured a group of awakened lives. On the land full of life, there was fresh life and also decay, but at least everything was developing in a good direction. Looking down from the sky, on the boundless land, the whole world became quiet and peaceful again. It was as if that world-destroying disaster had never happened. But under the peaceful and distant surface of the world, there were the tenacious and magnificent souls that had gone through the disaster. What was eternity? How long was eternity? No one knew. If another calamity were to befall them one day, they would be able to stand up again. As long as life did not stop, the battle would not stop. In the video, the scene quickly passed by the forest on the ground. Further away, where the sun could not reach, there was no haze or gloom. Instead, there was a resplendent and mysterious starry sky. The music gradually calmed down, and the beautiful string notes with a tinge of sadness and emotion gradually lightened. The low male voice gradually faded away in the string music. The subtitles gradually appeared. MV main character, Polar Light Species. Longxiang Tianluosong title. 100-Year Period of Destruction Chapter 4. Eternity Producer, Fangzhou Production Team, Polar Light Project Team, Fangzhou, Zhu Wensong Miao Pang Pusong Zeng Huang, Wanyu Fuing Tian Stiller, Zhang Yu etc. Production Company, Silver Wing Media. Xue Jing stared at the name of the producer on the subtitles, and shook his head with a sigh. He found it hard to believe, but at the same time, he was overjoyed that he had found a treasure. That kid Fangzhou. Shaking his head, Xue Jing picked up a pen and wrote in his notebook. Chapter 74. After the 4 movements of the 100-Year Period of Destruction series were released, music professionals started to analyze them. The Voice of Yenzhou, founded by the Yenzhou Music Association and recognized as the most authoritative media outlet in Yenzhou, had an article written by Dina on its front page. Is it an inquiry into life or a reflection on the soul? The 4 epic movements of the 100-Year Period of Destruction have triggered a new round of discussion about their techniques. Following that, other professionals followed suit with their own analysis. A detailed explanation of the golden section in the 4 movements of the 100-Year Period of Destruction. In the age of commercialized music, symphonic music is on the verge of a new peak. In addition to music professionals keeping an eye on the music, there was another group of people keeping an eye on it. The treatment team formed based on Mingye's condition had been waiting for a long time. The 4 movements formed a whole. From their research point of view, it was a complete treatment. After the release of the 4th movement, they entered a busy phase. Hull virus research had always been a global conundrum. It was like a door that no one could enter. But now they had a complete key in their hands. How far they could go after opening the door was up to them. But the people who read the news were music professionals and medical professionals. The rest of the public paid no attention to it. What the public paid attention to was the heated online voting competition and other entertainment topics. Rising Dragon's Yenzhou branch had set up a voting platform. Silver Wing's Polar Light, Tongshan True Entertainment's Miyu, and Neon Culture's Andy Leo were the 3 most popular candidates. Who will win the endorsement deal for Battle of the Century? Some people had previously said that even though Silver Wing had launched a virtual idol, The competition would still be a duel between veteran virtual idol powerhouses Neon Culture and Tangshan True Entertainment. But looking at the voting platform, the gap between the three was not that big. We can't see the difference now, but wait and see. In 2 days, the difference will be obvious. Right now, all three major companies are mobilizing their own people to canvass for votes. In 2 days, when this popularity dies down, we can only rely on their own influence. Although Polar Light became popular because of the four movements, in terms of influence, it is definitely not as strong as the other two, an entertainment media commentator analyzed. Whether it was me, you, or Andy Leo, they had been developing for 2 years. After 2 years of accumulation, they were now at the peak of their popularity. Polar Light, on the other hand, could only be considered a novelty, whether it was his image or the way he debuted. He did not conform to the mainstream aesthetic standards. Polar Light's fan base is mainly made up of older people, or people with rich military experience. Only then will they like this kind of music. Younger people won't like it. But this kind of statement was slapped in the face in the next moment. On the voting platform, each of the three candidates had their own comment section. Silver Wings operations team was dumbfounded as they looked at the Polar Light column on the voting platform. Did you hire an internet water army? An employee in charge of operations asked another employee. Nope. Didn't you say to observe the situation before making a decision? An employee sitting in front of them turned his head and said to them, about that, high school students have a long Memorial Day holiday. They're still on vacation, so they have nothing to do. At this moment, people who were paying attention to the endorsement voting discovered that in Silver Wings Polar Light's column, there was an exceptionally different style of comments. For the new world. For the glory of the Ents. Treants are fearless. The enemy is too cunning. They actually pulled another batch over. Hold on, bro. Chi in number 1 middle school's 2nd grade team is leading reinforcements. Chi in number 12 middle school's team is reporting for duty. Yinchi number 6 middle school's team is reporting for duty. I met a schoolmate. Those at the back, brothers from Yandong, Yinnan, Yinbei, hurry up and catch up. Oh, I've been hit, my fantasy branch dropped. I picked it up. Comrades, catch your fantasy branch. Watching the unceasing flow of comments from the audience, someone sighed. Every word is acting. They're too immersed in their acting. Do they really think there are Ents with branches all over their bodies? Why don't they say there are flowers blooming on their heads? However, the bizarre style of comments continued. Magu City, follow me. Where's Jinggang City's team? Hold on, Gong City's support team will be here soon. Liizhou's support team is reporting for duty. The sudden appearance of this comment not only stopped the people who were having fun, but it also attracted the attention of the audience and the company. Liizhou. Why are people from Liizhou here? At first, they thought it was just a small number of people from Liizhou joining in on the fun, but soon, more and more Liizhou natives appeared in the comments. Which Silver Wing superstar is making a move? Someone guessed. But very quickly, this idea was rejected. Superstars who cross continents to make a name for themselves would not easily get involved in such matters. Once they got involved, it would have a greater impact, and might even go beyond their control. Companies would not easily play this card when they had painstakingly groomed a world-class star. Besides, the truth was, the company did not have much control over stars of that level. Rather than calling it an employment relationship, it was more of a partnership. The company could not force it. Therefore, this type of voting was usually limited to the same continent. Those who participated in the canvassing for votes were all A-list and below celebrities of their companies. In terms of influence, there was still a limit. In addition to the exclusion system of each continent, people from other continents would generally not participate. But what was going on now? Why are people from Liizhou here? Neon Culture asked the Rising Dragon branch about this. Was this cross-continent canvassing not a violation of the rules? The Rising Dragon branch in Yenzhou replied that the rules never restricted the region. The Yenzhou voting platform was not restricted to outsiders. People from other continents could log in, no limit. If you had the ability to canvass worldwide, the rising dragon branch would raise both hands in approval. That would also boost the magazine's popularity. Soon, everyone found out that wireless media was canvassing for votes in Lijo. Media outlets in the industry began to speculate that Silver Wing Media and wireless media of Lijo must have some secret deal. At the same time, wireless media of Lijo contacted Silver Wing to discuss a collaboration. It was not a music deal. Wireless media was a film company and did not want to disrupt the Lijo music industry. What they were looking for now was a film collaboration. Wireless media had already started preparing for the next film, but Zero was not trying to boost anyone's popularity. He was trying to curry favor with his great-grandfather. The third movement had given him a shortcut, so this time, Zero was serious. He had spent a lot of money to hire a well-known screenwriter and director. He planned to make a film that depicted war and glorified heroes. He would also star in it. He was currently honing his acting skills. At the same time, he instructed his company to discuss a collaboration with Silver Wing. Hadn't Polar Light just debuted? A film would surely be produced. Why not collaborate with wireless media? Generally speaking, Lijo film companies would promote actors from their own continent. Whether it was a real person or a virtual idol, it was easier to gain audience support with actors from their own continent. After all, local actors had fan bases and could easily pull up box office sales. However, Zero's goal now was not to make money. He wanted to curry favor with his great-grandfather. After the fourth movement of the 100-year period of destruction series was completed, Zero used some means to obtain all four movements of the 100-year period of destruction series and sent them to the Old Master. The more he showed his face in front of the Old Master, the more benefits he would receive. Of course, he would do whatever pleased his great-grandfather. His great-grandfather did not mind people from other continents. Naturally, Feng Zhao did not mind either. At most, he would earn less or lose money. As long as he could make his presence known in front of his great-grandfather, his goal would be achieved. Helping to canvass for votes was a sign of wireless media's sincerity. While it was bustling outside, Feng Zhao ignored it. He sat in his office and wrote down his thoughts on composing, as well as some techniques and insights he had gained while composing. He had already written some. Today he would finish the rest. As for the rest, he would think about it later. When he was done, Feng Zhao sent the document to Xuejing. Elsewhere in Qian City, Xuejing was working on an analysis of the fourth movement. When he heard the notification, he opened the document Feng Zhao had sent. He was stunned when he finished reading. Xuejing wanted Feng Zhao to talk about composing concepts and sources of inspiration. He hoped that Feng Zhao could impart some of his experience, so that more people could come into contact with this style of music and learn some techniques. How much to impart was up to Feng Zhao. But Xuejing had not expected Feng Zhao to write so much. A textbook like this would have only about 100,000 words, or at most 200,000. The textbook would also have music scores and other analysis diagrams. For this textbook, which was still in the process of being compiled, Xuejing had only intended to write 100,000 words. He wanted to write about new things that had not been mentioned before, and only briefly mention old things. But the document Feng Zhao had sent was 30,000 words. That was almost a third of Xuejing's estimated word count. Furthermore, it was all about Feng Zhao's composing experience and composing techniques. There was not the slightest bit of ambiguity. He even combined some classical techniques and explained in detail how to fuse classical music with new instruments. Xuejing immediately contacted Feng Zhao after reading it. Feng Zhao, do you know what all this means? If one did not want to teach, one could open a paid training class and take in a few apprentices. That would be a sizable extra income. That was what many people did. But Feng Zhao had actually written all this out. Putting these things into this unpopular teaching material that would be released to the public in the future would not bring Feng Zhao much income. I know, Feng Zhao said. Is there any problem with the content? No, I just wanted to confirm. Do you really want to include all this in the textbook? Xuejing asked again. Whether or not to include it, the decision is in your hands. Feng Zhao knew what Xuejing meant, but he still chose to make his experiences and techniques public. He did not know how long he could stay in this world. When he opened his eyes to look at the world again, he was grateful. He had thought about it during the end of days. If possible, he really wanted to pass on every single note he composed. If possible, who would not want to live longer? This life was a hard-won accident to begin with. Not everyone could have such an opportunity. He would use all the experiences and techniques he had learned in this life to leave behind in the textbook. He hoped that in the future on his tombstone, he would not forget to write a composer. Xuejing took a deep breath when he received Fang Zhao's confirmation. I understand. After ending the call, Xuejing was silent for a while. Then, he moved Fang Zhao's name from the column of contributing editor and placed it in the empty column of deputy editor. On the other side, Fang Zhao received a message from Duan Qinji shortly after his call with Xuejing. Chapter 75. After the release of the fourth movement, Ming Song stayed by his son's treatment team for a while, asking about the progress of the treatment and receiving an encouraging response. Then he came to Silver Wing to look for Duan Qinji. From the moment the first movement was released, he had wanted to meet the composer. Just as he had said before, the composer behind the four movements was like a god to him and his family, pulling them out of a long period of despair and giving them hope. Therefore, Ming Song had always wanted to thank the composer in person, but Silver Wing had been holding him back, and it was not appropriate to disturb the composer before the release of the first movement. Ming Song had waited until today, when all four movements were released, and he had rushed over. Since Silver Wing was about to release the name list of the real production team, he might as well thank the composer in person first. After Duan Qinji had notified the composer to come up, Ming Song had been a little nervous. Perhaps he was too excited to meet his benefactor, or perhaps he was looking forward to meeting a great master. After drinking another glass of water, Ming Song heard Duan Qinji's office door open. He looked up and saw a young man walking in. Looking behind the young man, there was no one else. Ming Song knew Fang Zhao. He had looked up everyone on the credits for the music video, so of course he knew who this young man was. But this was company business, so he could not say anything. Based on his understanding of Duan Qinji, this young man who had been used as a shield had probably received a lot of benefits. He was only here to meet his benefactor, and would not interfere with Silver Wing's internal affairs. Ming Song glanced at Fang Zhao with the amiable gaze of an elder, 3 parts encouragement, 3 parts sympathy, and the rest out of courtesy. Nodding slightly, Ming Song retracted his gaze and continued to wait. He was still trying to guess which great master it was, but some of the techniques used in the 4 movements were too unfamiliar. He had asked more than half the people in the industry, but there had been no reply. Could it be that someone was restricted by a confidentiality agreement? There was really no news at all. Who could it be? Ming Song pondered. Fang Zhao was puzzled by Ming Song's gaze. He walked over and sat down on a chair. Ahem. Duan Qinji coughed lightly. President Ming. Ming Song looked over, not understanding. Duan Qinji pointed at Fang Zhao. This is the person you are looking for, the true composer of the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction. Ming Song. He looked at Fang Zhao sitting there, then stiffly turned his neck to look at Duan Qinji. Seeing Duan Qinji nod again, Ming Song's jaw dropped. So the shield that Silver Wing had put out in front of the public was actually an armored tank capable of attacking cities and conquering lands. Before Ming Song came here, he had thought of all kinds of possibilities. He knew her and did not know her, had a good relationship with her and did not, had a good relationship with her, 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 had a good relationship with her. After about a minute of silence, Fang Zhao? Ming Song still found it hard to believe. He was too surprised. Just by listening to the 4 movements, He could not match the person in his mind with the young man in front of him, who was not even half his age. I am, Feng Zhao replied, the creator of the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction. Yes. Oh, what a surprise. Ming Song quickly added, I'm sorry. What I meant was that it's rare to see someone of your age create such a work. What I meant was that it's rare to see someone of your age create something like that. It was just too surprising. As he spoke, Ming Song lowered his head and smiled. He took a deep breath, got up and bowed to Feng Zhao. Thank you. Also, sorry for my lack of manners. Ming Song was referring to the way he had looked at Feng Zhao when Feng Zhao had first walked in. Whenever he recalled the look of sympathy, Ming Song felt embarrassed. You're welcome, President Ming. I'm just a composer. Being able to contribute to the cure of the Hull virus is a pleasant surprise. I'm very happy. Feng Zhao gestured for Ming Song to sit down and chat. He was just a nobody in his 20s. It would not be nice for the Yinzhou Music Association's vice president to keep talking to him. It wasn't just you. Professor Shui was also surprised when he saw me, Feng Zhao said. Professor Shui? Is that Professor Shui Jing? Ming Song asked. Yes. Ming Song knew Duan Qinji wouldn't lie to him, and Shui Jing's name confirmed the matter. The 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series had really been composed by a fresh graduate in his 20s. After confirming this, Ming Song pulled Feng Zhao aside and spoke quite a bit. He did not speak as an elder, nor did he speak as a guild leader, but as a father. He discussed with Feng Zhao some matters regarding composing, as well as the progress of his son's treatment. After chatting for an hour, Ming Song left because of a message. A friend from another continent was looking for him. Before leaving, Ming Song thanked Feng Zhao profusely, added him as a friend, and promised to drop by again when he had time. After leaving Silver Wing Tower, Ming Song contacted Shui Jing. Professor Shui, do you know Feng Zhao? Although Ming Song was the Yinzhou Music Association's vice president, he was still very respectful to a veteran like Shui Jing. When Ming Song was still a student, Shui Jing had taught them. In more formal settings, they would address Shui Jing as Great Master. Shui Jing was a little surprised to receive Ming Song's message, but when he remembered the incident with Ming Song's son, he understood. Shui Jing laughed. I know. You found out the truth from Duan Qinji? Ming Song also laughed. I just came out and got a shock. It was really unexpected. Along the way, Ming Song also thought back to his discussion with Feng Zhao. He realized that when Feng Zhao was talking to him, it didn't feel like he was talking to the vice president of a continent's music association. There was no sense of restraint or nervousness. It really felt like he was talking to an ordinary industry peer. You know, I accepted a teaching material assignment, Shui Jing said. Yes, I heard from people in the industry. A lot of people say you're old and silly. Ming Song was in a good mood, and even joked with Shui Jing. But you don't care about fame and benefits anymore. I am silly, but there are people even more silly than me, Shui Jing lamented. Ming Song heard gratification and praise in Shui Jing's words. You mean? It's Feng Zhao. Oh, he's one of the contributors you hired. Shui Jing wanted to write symphonic structures, so it was understandable that he used the 4 movements as examples. No, he's the deputy editor. If not for Silver Wing's other arrangements, I would have announced this right now. Shui Jing briefly mentioned the document Feng Zhao had sent him. He trusted Ming Song's character, so he was not afraid of Ming Song divulging it. Ming Song listened to Shui Jing's undisguised joy and admiration, and the smile on his face was replaced by seriousness. Ming Song, I hope that what passes on is something truly meaningful and valuable, and not some half-hearted low-quality product. This was what Shui Jing said to Ming Song before hanging up. An hour later, Ming Song posted a new message on his personal page on his social media platform. Today I met the creator of the 100-year period of destruction. He is a very surprising and admirable person. Ming Song's status once again sparked heated discussion in the industry, but no matter who asked, Ming Song only replied, everyone will know who this mysterious creator is in 2 days. Silver Wing will make it public. Ming Song's words were quoted by many media outlets, And Silverwing also had the intention of promoting it. They wanted to ensure Polar Light's popularity, and that there would be topics during the voting period. Besides these small pieces of news, they also wanted to ensure that Polar Light appeared on camera. Thus, there was Polar Light's first interview. This kind of interview was to let people understand this virtual idol better and draw them closer. It was not just limited to his image in the music video. This was a way to attract fans and increase his popularity. It was also beneficial for future development. However, Polar Light's interview had been arranged in advance by Silverwing. Feng Zhao was an expert on how to attract an audience and boost his popularity. Silverwing's team was more experienced than Feng Zhao, and there were more professionals guiding him. The other members of the production team only had to follow the prearranged schedule. Feng Zhao did not need to keep an eye on them. Feng Zhao had been invited by Xue Jing to write the teaching materials. Writing a teaching material was not like pasting a document on the page. It required modifications and analysis based on actual examples. As a pure creator, Feng Zhao did not have much experience, so the document he sent to Xue Jing was not suitable for direct application. He needed to make corresponding changes. Xue Jing felt that online communication was too troublesome, so he asked Feng Zhao about his work schedule. After learning that Feng Zhao did not have any urgent matters that required his personal attention, he pulled Feng Zhao over to discuss them. On the second day of Polar Light's interview, and the fourth day of the online voting period, Silverwing released a bombshell early in the morning. The host smiled at the screen. Everyone has been guessing how many great masters were hired for the 100-year period of destruction. Pay attention to the team behind this virtual idol. The following name list is the real team behind the Polar Light project, which everyone has been paying attention to. This includes the creators of the 4 movements. On the screen, the 2 host silhouettes disappeared, and an enlarged and brightly lit name list appeared. Polar Light project producer, Feng Zhao 100-year period of destruction 4 movement composer. Feng Zhao 100-year period of destruction 4 movement composer. Feng Zhao vocals. Pang Pusong production team members. Feng Zhao, Zhu Wen Song Miao, Pang Pusong, Zheng Huang, Wan Yu Fuing Tian, Stiller, Zhang Yu etc. Chapter 76. Take a look at the end credits of the music video for the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series, and look at the new information released by Silverwing. Was there a difference? Wasn't it just the addition of a composer and arranger for the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series? Too treacherous. I waited here early in the morning after hearing the news yesterday. Never did I expect to be made a fool of. Exactly, they are obviously playing with us. This is not much different from the credits at the end of the music video. But this was not the end. The subtitles scrolled up to reveal a more detailed list of people who had contributed to the Polar Light project, such as mixing, classified arrangement, recording, harmony, consultants, and so on. The names of those who had contributed to the entire Polar Light project were listed in descending order. Why are the symphonic music mixers and electronic music arrangers also listed as Feng Zhao? There is only one consultant. Feng Zhao. Do you think we will believe that? Haha. No. Believe. Is there a problem with the producer, composer, arranger, and consultant? What about the legendary consultant team? Why is there only one person? My guess is that Silverwing purposely found a few people with the same name. Yes, that must be it. Hahaha, I am so smart. Otherwise, how could they all display the same name? The media outlets that had been excitedly preparing for the headlines were stunned. How were they going to write a press release? Was Silverwing playing around so early in the morning? Qian Cheng, chief editor of Qian City's popular Prairie Fire, was tapping his fingers as he looked at the screen in silence. Boss, what do we do? Should we release one first? I think someone has already released one. A staff member beside him said. Qian Cheng looked at the information his staff had sent him. It was filled with all sorts of news from other Yinzhou media outlets. Regardless of whether it was true or not, it was all nonsense. There was doubt, ridicule, and conspiracy theories. They were ready to set the pace at a moment's notice. Wait a minute. Qiancheng tossed the information aside. Their Prairie Fire was not like those short-sighted small media outlets. Even though they would spout nonsense at times, they had to make it attractive. He also knew that even more people were waiting for their report. So he definitely could not let this bomb that Silver Wing had thrown get messy. 2 minutes later, Qiancheng received 2 messages. A smile appeared on his serious face as he forwarded the 2 messages to his editor. You can send it now. In the outside world, many people were indeed jolted awake by Silver Wing's news early in the morning. However, at this time, they still believed in Prairie Fire. While other small and medium media outlets were making a racket, Prairie Fire was still biding its time. Soon after, an official announcement was made that quoted Yinzhou Music Association Vice President Dina's new developments. The time Dina had posted this status update was exactly 2 minutes after Silver Wing had dropped the bomb. Dina, when the second movement was released, I mentioned that there was a very good symphony mixer and electronic music arranger behind the scenes. Also, I didn't recognize the work of any of my peers. I was very curious and asked many people, but I couldn't get an answer. Until yesterday when I learned the truth from Ming Song. I always thought that the mixer and arranger behind the scenes were 2 seniors in the industry, but now it seems that not only are they the same person, but they are also a young man who graduated less than a year ago. The younger generation will surpass the older generation. The people who read the news were momentarily confused. What's going on? Dina wouldn't go so far as to use Silver Wing to dupe people, right? Amid the heated discussion, Prairie Fire followed up with another quote. But this time, it was not Dina's status update, but Ming Song's. Ming Song posted a photo of him and Fang Zhao before he left Silver Wing. Below the photo was a caption, I met my benefactor. Just as I said 2 days ago, he is indeed a surprising and admirable person. The person standing beside Ming Song in the photo is Fang Zhao. The Fang Zhao in the caption? That's him. I graduated in the same year as him. I can prove it. Prairie Fire's 2 consecutive pieces of news made many people hesitate. Both Dina and Ming Song had said so. As the 2 vice presidents of the Yinzhou Music Association and authoritative figures in the Yinzhou music industry, they wouldn't lie, right? Does that mean it's true? It really isn't a combination of people with the same name? Is Silver Wing's virtual project producer really the Fang Zhao in the music video caption? Composing, arranging, mixing, consulting. I heard he was the one who finalized Polar Light's image, right? Wow, that's scary. Outsiders might have just joined in on the excitement and gossip, but after receiving confirmation from 2 authoritative figures in the music industry, they would only think, wow, this guy is really something. But people in the music industry were shaken. Because they knew how difficult it was, they found it hard to believe. Prairie Fire had previously speculated that Silver Wing's project had to have a powerful and famous consulting team behind it, but now it seemed like they were wrong. Professor Bradley from Yinzhou University's School of History, who specialized in the period of destruction, had been invited to critique the first movement of Prairie Fire, as well as researcher Koda from the Yinzhou Academy of Science, who studied mutated organisms during the period of destruction, had expressed their desire to discuss academia and life with this multitasking young consultant. Professionals in the music industry also found it hard to accept. The influence of the movement, it's as if he's really stepping into that era. That kind of strong foundation. Is it possible for a young man who just graduated? It wasn't just the people who found it hard to believe. As early as the first movement, even head of Silver Wing's arrangement department, Ye Erlin, thought Fang Zhao was a monster. Before recording, Fang Zhao had been studying the interesting electronic sounds and melodies of the new era. He had also studied all the human voices during the early stages of the recording. He wasn't familiar with the computer technology of the new era. So Fang Zhao had guided the electronic arrangers on how to make the virtual instruments produce the electronic sounds he wanted. Every movement had hundreds of tracks of virtual instruments and audio. Fang Zhao was a symphony mixer and electronic arranger, yet he had completed the movement perfectly. At the same time, Silver Wing's former virtual project manager Glyphitz, who was recuperating in Jinggang, had fallen ill again. Reality was the best wake-up call. By the time Glyphitz learned the truth from an insider, he had already given up on the idea of returning to Silver Wing. He had been trying to adjust his mindset, but when he saw the news and the truth, he was once again dealt a heavy blow. Of course, there were inevitably some dissenting voices. I've analyzed Fang Zhao's previous works, and they weren't of this style. Therefore, I still have reservations about Fang Zhao's identity as the composer of the 100-year period of destruction. Maybe there's some big news brewing here. Has anyone investigated Fang Zhao's background? As for getting Dina and Ming Tsang to protect him? Hee my dear, which had previously appeared on the new newcomer chart, might have been liked by some people. However, in the eyes of professionals, it was lacking in many ways. It was too different from the 4 epic movements of the 100-year period of destruction series. There was no comparison. I can't deny it. Although I've heard that Fang Zhao had pretty good grades in university, Qian Academy of Music has a lot of top students. His previous works don't look like much. The students of the Qian Academy of Music were quick to respond to these doubts. Some people are just like that. They don't even listen to other people's explanations. They put on an attitude that says, I don't care, I definitely can't do it, so you definitely can't do it either. There must be something wrong with you. They even think that they're being reasonable. Idiot. Nowadays, popular music styles are different from symphonic structures, but composing is just like cooking. One dish might not be your forte, but another dish can be made to the level of a grandmaster. Perhaps Fang Zhao has just found a path that belongs to him? In the art world, this sort of thing is common. Don't be so surprised. Composing and inspiration, as well as enlightenment, is a very mysterious thing. You might be at a loss one moment, or you might be bursting with inspiration the next. Don't look down on anyone. There are still geniuses in this world. It's just that some were discovered early, while others took their time to shine. The debate over whether Fang Zhao was the original composer of the 100-year period of destruction series was still raging online. Silver Wing was happy to see it. As long as there was a topic, it was a good thing. They naturally had ways to get people to vote. However, Fang Zhao had not been at Silver Wing for the past 2 days. There was no need for him to personally attend to company matters. Furthermore, there were often people camping near the company. Some were waiting for other celebrities, while others were waiting for the latest hot topic. In the past, Fang Zhao did not have much of a reputation. Even if his name was on the marquee, no one would come looking for him, and he would not be afraid of being recognized. But now, if he were to take the public train, it would be a little troublesome. The spread of information on the internet was very fast. Silver Wing had assigned him a special car, with a dedicated driver. Now he did not go to the company. Every day, he would take the car from his residence to Xuejing's house. Fang Zhao left home a little early that day. On the way to Xuejing's house, he asked the driver to drive him to a shop. He did not have his notebook. When composing, he was still used to using paper notebooks to write drafts. He did not have to worry about the paper being stolen. When he composed, he used a self-created password. Other than himself, no one could understand it. Xuejing introduced him to a shop that specialized in handwritten notebooks. Many composers with similar habits loved paper. Although it was expensive, it was comfortable to use. Inside the antique shop, the middle-aged owner was humming a tune as he watched the latest entertainment news. When Fang Zhao entered the shop, the news just happened to have Fang Zhao's photo posted. It was a graduation photo from Qian Academy of Music. The owner glanced at Fang Zhao, then back at the person on the screen. He gave Fang Zhao a friendly smile. Welcome. There were too many people who came to the shop to purchase paper notebooks. Among them, there was no lack of great masters. Thus, when the owner saw Fang Zhao, he was momentarily surprised, but he quickly regained his composure. Feel free to look at any kind of notebook you like. There are samples and pens on the side. You can try them out yourself. Fang Zhao did not have strict requirements for paper. He selected a few that Xuejing had recommended, paid the bill and left. However, he ran into some trouble as he left the shop. He had been blocked. Feng Zhao looked at the people surrounding him in silence. His first reaction had been to pull out his gun. Luckily, he had not sensed any killing intent and remembered that this was not the end of days, so he had endured it. "Hello. I am an intern from the music section of Prairie Fire. Mr. Fong, may I know your opinion on the doubtful voices these past 2 days? Is there any other proof that you are the original composer of the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction?" The person asking the question met Feng Zhao's emotionless eyes and stammered. Even though there was no obvious anger, the person could not help but feel diffident. His voice also stuttered to a halt. It was as if a gun had been pointed at his head. The person's hand on the car door trembled, but he retracted it under Feng Zhao's gaze. Feng Zhao stood in front of the car door and scanned the 3 people surrounding him. 2 guys and a girl. They looked to be in their early 20s. They were probably interns who had entered the company before graduating. It was early February, and the weather in Qian City had not been good recently. The temperature was low, and the wind was quite strong. The 3 of them did not have much insulation, and their noses and faces were red from the cold. The girl beside them even sniffled. Feng Zhao thought for a bit, then fished out a card and handed it to the person who had just asked the question. "Take it back and film it. Remember to send it to Silver Wing after you finish." After saying this, Feng Zhao got into the car. The driver hurriedly drove off. He had not expected that there would be people waiting for Feng Zhao here. Feng Zhao was not a singer or movie star. Why was there already so many people watching him? After the car left, the 3 people blocking Feng Zhao at the entrance stamped their stiff feet and looked at the card Feng Zhao had left behind. Fuck. After seeing the picture on the card, the person's hand trembled and almost dropped the card. He hurriedly tightened his grip. This. Is this real? Fire. Fire. Chapter 77. Back then, the deputy head of Fiery Bird's sound effects department, Yu Chuan, had not only left behind a miniature projector that stored the opening scene, but he had also left behind a memory card for Feng Zhao to store after he composed the music. It was a very secure storage device, and was nicknamed the invitation card by people in the industry. Only people who were invited by Fiery Bird would receive this memory card. Duan Qianji had left a message for Feng Zhao yesterday, saying that if anyone came knocking, he should take out this card with the prominent Fiery Bird logo. This was something Duan Qianji and Yu Chuan had discussed. As long as it was not mentioned that it was the background music for the opening scene, it would be fine. As for the projector that had already stored the opening scene, it was not suitable to give it out. Duan Qianji had asked Yu Chuan, "If this card falls into the hands of others, will there be any repercussions?" Yu Chuan was very confident. As long as it has not been stored, it does not matter if it falls into the hands of others. It does not matter if we cannot find it. We have ways to recover it. When he had first seen the 3 interns, Feng Zhao had observed their attire and the equipment they were carrying. The Prairie Fire internship certificates they were wearing were also real. Furthermore, the 3 of them had a newbie aura about them. It did not matter who he gave it to. Since he had come across it, he might as well give it to them. After he had taken enough photos and verified that it was the real deal, he would return it. Giving it to the people from Prairie Fire was also in line with Duan Qianji's intentions. Feng Zhao was not worried that the people from Prairie Fire would hide the card. Although the people there liked to find topics to talk nonsense and attract the public's attention, as one of the most popular media outlets in Yinzhou's entertainment circle, they would not dare do such a thing. Furthermore, the people from Fiery Bird had said that they could recover it if they lost it, so Feng Zhao was not worried. He had already composed a portion of the music for the opening scene of Battle of the Century. But for Feng Zhao, it was still not enough. He still had to make changes. After he was done with Xuejing, Feng Zhao would make changes to the music score. After all, Xuejing's matters were almost done, and it would not take more than 2 days. Feng Zhao went over to Xuejing's side to compile his book with a peace of mind. The 3 interns who were left behind shivered in the cold wind. They looked at each other and hurriedly put away their cards, afraid that if they were any slower, they would be seen. Fortunately, it was still early, and the shop was not eye-catching, so no one noticed them. Interns like them were scattered in several places. The higher-ups had given them a few routes, and they needed people to lie in ambush. The editors all had jobs to do, and the interns who had just joined the company were in charge of running errands. They had to wait at various places where the target might appear. If they could meet the target, they would be lucky. If they couldn't, they could only hand in the blank. However, they had not expected their luck to be so good today. Not only had they managed to stop Feng Zhao, but they had also received an important piece of evidence. The three of them quickly ran back to the headquarters of Prairie Fire and found a senior who had led them. Editor-in-Chief Qian Cheng was browsing through the news he had just received when he saw a young editor coming over with 3 interns. "Boss, my juniors managed to stop Feng Zhao today." "Oh." Qian Cheng didn't look away from the screen and asked, "What did you get?" He didn't place too much hope on the intern. Even if he could stop someone on the route he had arranged, he might not be able to get the information he wanted. Feng Zhao didn't say much. He just gave them something. The editor gestured for his juniors to take out the item. The intern reluctantly fished out a pouch from his inner pocket. He opened the pouch and took out the card. The 3 of them had touched this card a few times on their way back to headquarters. This was Fiery Bird's memory card. A memory card that was only given to certain collaborators. Normal people couldn't touch it. Qian Cheng, who was staring at the news on the screen, glanced to the side and froze. He stood up with a whoosh. "Fiery Bird's memory card. Where did you get it?" There was no such thing as pirated copies. Pirated copies were all in jail. "Feng Zhao gave it to me," the intern said softly. "Feng Zhao? How did Feng Zhao get this?" Qian Cheng held the card and walked around twice. Then he pointed at the 3 interns. "Come to my office and tell me everything in detail." That afternoon, Prairie Fire broadcast a piece of news during its live broadcast. Recently, discussions regarding the true composer of the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series have not stopped. I believe that many people are like us, waiting for the next piece of evidence. Today, we were fortunate enough to meet teacher Feng Zhao and asked him for his opinion on the speculations online. Then teacher Feng Zhao gave us this. 4 pictures appeared, taken from different angles. Each of the 4 pictures showed a card, and the S symbol on the card was very clear. Whether or not it was a coincidence, no one cared. Everyone's attention was on the 4 pictures. A single teacher Feng Zhao was enough to let people familiar with Prairie Fire know that Prairie Fire, who stood in the middle, was going to pick a side. And after seeing the 4 pictures, they understood why Prairie Fire had changed its stance. What did I just see? The fabled invitation card? This is Feng Zhao's? If not, who did Feng Zhao get it from? Awesome! Where are the people who said Feng Zhao had a hidden background? Our big Fiery Bird has never been swayed by that background thing. Fiery Bird was one of the top game companies in the world. Every game they produced was of a high standard, and the production requirements were extremely strict. In terms of sound effects, from the background sounds of the cutscenes, to the seemingly non-existent soundtrack, to even the smallest and most inconspicuous sound, everything had to be paid attention to. As for the background music, it was truly high-end custom-made. What they purchased was definitely an exclusive copyright. Other than being used in the game, it would not appear anywhere else. It was very exclusive and very rich. The songs used in the games they produced might not necessarily be the most well-received, but Fiery Bird's core was games. They had always picked the most suitable songs. However, those who had received invitations in the past were indeed some of the more famous and capable great masters. Therefore, in the eyes of many people, those who could receive an invitation from Fiery Bird were definitely great masters who lived up to their name. Top games and top custom-made music. This was the impression that the masses had. Regardless of whether the final song could be used, being able to receive an invitation card was in itself proof of one's ability. Counting the people who had received invitations in the past, which one of them was not a great master? Which one of them was not a rather famous studio? Even if they had not reached that level, they had long made a name for themselves. There had never been a person in his early 20s who had graduated less than a year ago who had been invited. Especially the loyal fans of Fiery Bird, gaming fans of all ages. They did not believe that Fiery Bird would make an exception for anyone. If Fiery Bird had really issued an invitation to Feng Zhao, then there was only one truth. Feng Zhao had the ability to accept the invitation. Following which, Prairie Fire released a statistical report listing all the known people who had received invitation cards in the past 100 years. This year Fiery Bird might have sent out another batch, but for some unknown reason, they had kept it under wraps. Qian Cheng could not find any news on the other invitees, but he believed that even if it was announced, there would not be anyone younger than Feng Zhao. The youngest person to receive an invitation in 100 years. Fiery Bird only had a history of 100 years, and Feng Zhao was the youngest person to receive an invitation card in these 100 years. If he did not have sufficient ability, was it worth Fiery Bird staking its reputation for 100 years? Although it was unknown which aspect of the game Feng Zhao had taken on as background music producer, the number of people who doubted his identity as the original creator had dwindled. The evidence placed in front of them was too dazzling. Yenzhou Music Association Vice Presidents Ming Song and Dina had both stepped forward to testify. Did you believe it? Did you not believe it? Alright, then what about Fiery Bird? Speechless, right? However, just as everyone had accepted this fact with much difficulty, and were discussing Feng Zhao as the youngest person to receive an invitation, another piece of news caused an uproar. If one only looked at this piece of news, the scope of its influence should have been limited to the music and education circles. But when it was released at this time, it attracted the attention of various parties. Xue Jing posted an article on his own social media platform, talking about the teaching material he was currently writing, New Voices in Symphonic Composition. The article mentioned the process of writing, the contents of the book, and the people to be thanked. Among them, there were two pictures that attracted everyone's attention. The first picture was the scene of Xue Jing, writing the teaching material in his own study. Old Professor Xue Jing, who had retired for many years, was sitting there with his head slightly tilted, discussing something with the person beside him. And the person sitting beside Xue Jing was the person who had been the talk of these few days, Feng Zhao. The second picture was an image of an ebook page. On it was a list of the chief editor, deputy editor, and 10 other participating editors of New Voices in Symphonic Composition. Among them, there were quite a number of well-known people, such as Ming Song, Dina, and a few other famous musicians from other continents. But these were only participating editors, and the contents of the book did not take up much of the content. The chief editor's column was Xue Jing. This was obvious even without looking. But what surprised everyone was that the deputy editor's column was actually Feng Zhao. One had to know that to occupy the title of deputy editor in such a teaching material, there had to be sufficient content in the book. At the end of Xue Jing's article, there was a paragraph that cleared up everyone's doubts. At least a third of this book's content was written by Feng Zhao. It contains some of his experience and techniques in composing and arranging music, including the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction, as well as the difficulties and solutions he encountered in arranging. He did not hold back anything. Those who are interested in symphonic structures can take a look. I believe you will learn a lot from it. The electronic and paper versions of New Voices in Symphonic Composition will be available in 2 weeks. Please look forward to it. Following Ming Song, Dina, and Fiery Bird, this was another solid hammer. The strength of a virtual idol and its potential depended on the team behind it. It was also an important part of the public's attention. And Feng Zhao was the core of this team. Now this core was starting to shine. Yanbei City Retirement Facility. The caretaker delivered dinner to the elderly residents of the facility on time. But after ringing the doorbell a few times, there was no response. Just when she thought there was no one inside, the door opened. Chapter 78. Old leaders, dinner is here, the caretaker said softly. No response. The caretaker raised her voice and repeated herself. This time there was a response. The old lady turned around and smiled apologetically. Leave it there first. We will eat in a bit. She then stared at the screen again. The caretaker was a little curious as to what the two elders were so engrossed in. But due to professional ethics, she could not simply look. She could only be curious. After the caretaker left, the two elders did not leave the screen. I haven't finished reading. Why are you flipping? The old lady turned the page back. You are too slow. The old master grumbled unhappily, but he did not idle while waiting. He saved a screenshot of the page and sent it to some old friends later. The old master and the old lady also paid attention to some news, but they had never looked at entertainment news in the past. After Feng Zhao's visit on Memorial Day, the two elders would glance at the entertainment news section when watching the news every day. They had a deep impression of this great-grandson of theirs. Since they had nothing better to do, it was no big deal for them to look at an extra section of the news. Of course, they knew about the recent hot topic in Yenzhou. The two elders had also seen the Yenzhou conscription promotional video and had praised the theme song as very good. Because they liked it very much, they had searched for it and downloaded it. Who would have thought that they would see the music video and the name on the subtitles at the end of the music video? At the time, they had suspected that it was someone else with the same name until Silver Wing exposed the truth. At that time, there had been a lot of doubts online. Although the old man and the old lady had their doubts. After all, this was a matter of family, and they were unhappy to see those slanderous words. They could not do anything about other parts of Yenzhou, but they could at least do something about it in Yanbei, right? Although they were already retired, they still had some influence. Some old colleagues, old subordinates, and some juniors could at least put in a bit of effort to uphold the opinions online. But before the two elders could react, a barrage of evidence came crashing down. The two deputy heads of the Yenzhou Music Association, the world's top game producer Fiery Bird, and the renowned music industry maestro Xue Jing all stepped forward to testify. Now they have nothing to say. Great-grandfather Feng slapped his thigh in delight. He did not know the vice president of the music association, but he had heard of the famous Fiery Bird, and had come into contact with a few of Fiery Bird's peripherals. As for Xue Jing, they were even more familiar with him. When the two elders were still studying, Xue Jing had already made a name for himself. The younger generation might not have understood, but great-grandfather and great-grandmother Feng were very clear about him. Back then, there had always been news reports about him. From a talented youth, to a promising youth, to a famous teacher, to a great master. Over time, he had influenced many generations. Thus, when they saw Xue Jing's high evaluation of Feng Zhao, great-grandfather and great-grandmother were very excited. They had even pre-ordered the electronic and hard copy of New Voices in Symphonic Composition online, so that they would receive it as soon as it went on sale. And after that, when the two elders used Feng Zhao's name as a keyword to search, they also discovered that Feng Zhao's name was being mentioned in other industries online. Medical journals, Silver Wing's genius composer Feng Zhao's 4 movements break through the frozen gate. Yenzhou Hull virus research team has made a breakthrough. The Yenzhou research team had already released the results of their latest round of research. The breakthrough wasn't a boast or an exaggeration of the results. They had really made progress that was gratifying. Now researchers from other related fields had rushed over from other continents to join the team. Even if they could not join, they could at least learn from the sidelines. When it came to Hull virus research, Yenzhou's medical team was at the forefront. History journals, respecting history, a brief discussion of the chaos in the entertainment industry caused by capitalists. The article used both positive and negative examples to criticize the chaotic film and television production environment under commercial operations. It was one thing to ignore the fictionalized world, but when it came to films that involved actual history, it was fine to talk about history. Even if they added a little personal information and made it artistic, it was understandable. But when it came to influential elements, Shouldn't they be a little more careful? Otherwise, the billions of lives that have been lost during the period of destruction would seem like a stupid joke. The music video for the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series was used as a positive example. But when it came to articles like this, many in the entertainment industry just laughed and said, as long as you can make money, who cares about your bullshit? If you can do it, then do it. As for the young composer, just wait and see. He won't be popular for long. Silver Wing was fighting for profits now, so they were blowing him up. Once this topic blew over, no one would mention him again. Every year, many people were short-lived and faded into obscurity. When the tree burns, all that's left is ash, a Yinzhou film producer said. But great-grandfather and great-grandmother didn't know that. They only noticed that Feng Zhao's name was mentioned in music, gaming, entertainment gossip, political news, and other electronic publications and live broadcast programs. Some mentioned him in passing, some highlighted. Did I save that photo? Yes. You saved the photo with Xue Jing. Yes. The 2 old men saved another screenshot of the news. When they checked the time, they realized it was already night. They heated up some food and ate some. Great-grandfather couldn't wait to go out and chat. As great-grandmother Yang was throwing out the trash, she heard great-grandfather Yang's loud voice coming from next door. Hey old Yang, let's not talk about national affairs today. Let's talk about the younger generation. Do you know who the news is talking about? My great-grandson. Sai, that rascal is in the entertainment industry. It's not a good place. He's different from other stars. He's just a composer. Sai, composing 4 epic songs at such a young age. As great-grandfather Feng sighed, the corners of his lips curled up to the heavens. At this point, he stretched out 4 fingers and shook them, then retracted 3. One of them was even used as the theme song for our continent's recruitment campaign. Next door old Yang. What will we do if this goes on? I'm worried he's too young and can't handle the pressure. I heard Fiery Bird is looking for him to compose songs. Oh right, do you know Xue Jing? When you were young, your mother used him as a role model. He's 10 years older than us. My great-grandson is writing books with him. He's even a deputy editor. Next door old Yang. There's a lot of news online. Have you been online lately? Have you seen the news? You haven't? If not, I'll show you. I've saved it all. Next door old Yang. Get lost. When great-grandfather Feng returned, humming an off-key tune, he saw the meaningful smile on great-grandmother Feng's face. Why are you smiling? Great-grandfather Feng was baffled. Did you forget something? Great-grandmother Feng asked. Great-grandfather Feng thought for a bit. I watered the flowers on the balcony today. Who asked you that? Then what are you talking about? Great-grandfather Feng still didn't understand. Great-grandmother Feng didn't count on his poor memory. She reminded him. Do you remember what little Zhao said before he left on Memorial Day? You even promised him. Old Master Feng finally remembered. Did he promise? Not in the mood for idle chatter, great-grandfather Feng paced in his room. After some thought, he gave Feng Zhao a video call. Feng Zhao had just returned to the office after dinner at Xue Jing's place. What's the matter? Nonsense. Why would I call you? Do I have nothing better to do? Great-grandfather Feng glared. Great-grandmother Feng laughed. You have nothing to do after retirement. Don't you have nothing better to do? Great-grandfather Feng glanced at Feng Zhao's background and asked, Are you at the office? I just came from Professor Xue's place. Great-grandfather Feng wanted to laugh, but he thought of something and put on a serious face. I was about to tell you about this. I've seen the news these past few days. You have indeed done well. But at times like this, don't be too affected by the outside world. Don't get complacent. You have to be rational. Great-grandmother Feng glanced at great-grandfather Feng. Wasn't he just bragging about it? Now he wants Feng Zhao to be rational about the outside world? He sure changed quickly. However, great-grandmother Feng agreed with what great-grandfather Feng had said. After transferring from the military, although they felt that it was like retirement, they had experienced many things and seen the ups and downs of others. They understood the principle that the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. It was rare to see someone like Feng Zhao among the younger generation. They didn't want to see Feng Zhao fade into the crowd like a flash in the pan. Feng Zhao's parents weren't around. As elders, it was only right for the two of them to mention him. Great-grandfather and great-grandmother Feng said a lot to Feng Zhao. Ming Song, Xuejing, and Duan Qinji had mentioned this before. Being famous meant being scolded. Doing something wrong meant being scolded. Doing something right meant being scolded. Many people would use this as a pretext to make a fuss. Some were good, some were bad, but they were all necessary on the road to success. Actually, Feng Zhao wasn't really affected by the outside world's evaluation or the fuss. He was also someone who had experienced things. In his previous life, he had been older than Ming Song and Duan Qianji, and not much younger than great-grandfather Feng, great-grandmother Feng, and Xuejing. The end of days and the new era were different, but Feng Zhao had experienced the complexity of human nature. Great-grandfather Feng was still there. If you can't calm down, you can go out for a walk. Do you need a bodyguard? Some of my old comrades have a special security company. Do you want me to send 2 people over? No need. The company has already arranged for someone. They should be here tomorrow, Feng Zhao replied. Your company's arrangements might not be reliable. Who did they arrange for you? I heard they're from the special forces. Oh. Great-grandfather Feng paused. In any case, you have to calm down. The other trivial matters will naturally be handled by the relevant personnel of your company. Just focus on composing your own music and writing your novel. Got it? Got it. All right, that's all. Great-grandfather Feng ended the call and went to his room to retrieve a box from the bedside table. You still decided to give it to him? Great-grandmother Feng asked. Chapter 79. The day after great-grandfather Feng's call with Feng Zhao was a Saturday. Second Uncle Feng did not go to work. He borrowed a colleague's car and drove over 4 hours from Yanbei City to Qian City. The night before, Second Uncle had been about to head out to chat with a few friends in the same building after dinner. He had seen the news about Feng Zhao and had been chatting with people in the neighborhood for the past 2 days. Previously, when Feng Zhao had visited, he had bought candies for the children in the neighboring buildings. Feng Zhao had also stayed over for a few days on Memorial Day. Many people had seen Feng Zhao, so when the news broke online, many people recognized him and chatted with Second Uncle every day. That night, just as Second Uncle was about to head out, he received a call from Old Master Feng. Ever since he added the old man's contact number, he had never encountered a situation where the old man took the initiative to look for him. When he saw the word Grandpa displayed on his personal terminal, Second Uncle Feng was so scared that he thought something had happened to the old man. However, Old Master Feng only asked about Feng Yu and Second Uncle's plans for Saturday. When he found out that Second Uncle did not have to work on Saturday and did not have any plans, he sent Second Uncle to Qian City. It was rare for Old Master Feng to assign him a task. Second Uncle was very excited. He borrowed a flying car from a colleague and headed to the retirement facility early Saturday morning. After collecting his things and assuring Old Master Feng that he would complete the task, he drove straight to Qian City. The next morning, Feng Zhao received a message from Old Master Feng, saying that Second Uncle would deliver something for him. So Feng Zhao waited at home all morning on Saturday. Second Uncle followed the address Feng Zhao had given him. As he neared the area, the car's computer system popped up a speed limit warning. The security personnel in the area also asked for identification, verification codes, and other information before the car arrived at the building Feng Zhao had given him. Feng Zhao was already waiting on the rooftop. It seems like the security measures are quite tight. You shouldn't have to worry about any disturbances. Before coming, Second Uncle had been worried that Feng Zhao's life would definitely be affected by the sudden increase in public exposure. But now that he saw the security measures, he was much more at ease. Indeed, I won't be disturbed here. Xuejing had bought a house here to avoid trouble. Feng Zhao had set his sights on this place for the same reason. If this was a black street, he would have been swarmed by reporters. Perhaps some reporters were even more adept at black street rules than the tenants. The old man asked me to give this to you. Second uncle did not know what old Master Fong wanted to give Feng Zhao, and had not opened it. After entering the house, he did not even bother to drink his tea. Instead, he handed the wrapped box to Feng Zhao. After delivering the items, second uncle did not stay for long. Knowing that Feng Zhao was doing well, he was no longer worried. It was rare for him to come to Qian City, so second uncle went to look for a few old friends to catch up. After second uncle Feng left, Feng Zhao tore open the packaging on the box. Following the passcode his grandfather had given him, he unlocked the box and saw a black gun inside. There was no holster. The gun was placed in a black box, and the body of the gun reflected a cold light. It was steady with a hint of sharpness. Looking at the structure of the gun, it was different from the gun he had snatched from the black street. However, he had seen this kind of gun in the game. There was also a note in the box that said, "It is better to rely on yourself than on others." At the bottom, another sentence was added, "For self-defense only." Looking at the gun and the note, Feng Zhao smiled, burned the note, put the gun away, and sent a message back to old Master Fong. Got it. Feng Zhao had thought that he would have to wait until he became more famous before asking old Master Fong for the gun. He had not expected old Master Fong to deliver it so soon. Old Master Fong had sent the gun mainly because of his promise to Feng Zhao. Apart from that, old Master Fong felt that celebrities were dangerous. There was too much attention on them, and they would be surrounded the moment they went out. What if they ran into some crazy people? Also, what if they ran into people who would do anything for profit? Feng Zhao did not have any reliable friends or family in Qian City, and he could not fully trust Silver Wing. Even if he arranged for bodyguards, how confident were they that he could guard against everything? There were always lunatics in this world who would go crazy over the smallest of matters. What if he was unlucky enough to run into such a situation? Old Master Fong felt that his great-grandson was just an artistic youth. He could not shoulder any responsibilities or carry any heavy weapons, so it was better to bring a gun as insurance. At least, that was what the old couple thought. After receiving Feng Zhao's message, old Master Fong exhorted Feng Zhao again. Don't think that just because you have a gun that you are not afraid of anything. Be vigilant when you go out. After blabbering on and on, old Master Fong treated Feng Zhao like a little kid who did not know anything. You're overthinking things. I know how to use a gun, and I won't use it carelessly. What do you know? Sai, forget it. You youngsters won't listen to anything I say. You're overthinking things. I'm just a little more famous now. I can't compare to those big stars, so there won't be that much trouble, Feng Zhao replied. Old Master Fong grumbled a little more before ending the call. Now that he had gotten his things, Feng Zhao did not continue staying at home. Instead, he went to the company. He sent Duan Qianji an application to head out to collect materials. Old Master Fong was right about one thing. Old Master Fong suggested that Feng Zhao go out for a walk. Although Feng Zhao was not affected by the discussions in the outside world, he did intend to go out for a walk, and he wanted to go a little far. He still had not completed the soundtrack assignment that Fiery Bird had given him, so he wanted to head out to look for inspiration. While paying his respects at Yinzhou's cemetery for martyrs, he had gained quite a bit of inspiration, but it was not enough. Feng Zhao intended to visit the cemetery for martyrs in other continents. He had long wanted to visit the graves of his old friends. Silver Wing Tower's top-floor office. Duan Qianji was listening to a report. There were still 2 more days to go before the online voting for the spokesperson. The votes for all 3 parties were very close. Each party had more than 20 million votes, and the difference was within 1,000 votes. Currently, Polar Light had the lowest number of votes, but in terms of overall numbers, 1,000 votes was not a big difference. It could only be said that all 3 parties were evenly matched. When she saw the application Feng Zhao had submitted, Duan Qianji's face twitched. Head out to collect materials? And he still had to leave Yinzhou to collect materials? Did he need to visit the cemetery for martyrs in every continent to find inspiration? However, Feng Zhao did not have any urgent tasks in Yanzhou. Regarding Polar Light's development plan, Feng Zhao had already seen it and agreed to it. Furthermore, some media outlets were keeping an eye on Feng Zhao. So Duan Qinji felt that Feng Zhao could go out and lay low for a while. After some consideration, Duan Qinji agreed. Even if Polar Light could not win the endorsement, if Feng Zhao's music was used by Fiery Bird, it would not be a bad deal. Thinking up to this point, Duan Qinji approved the application and generously allocated a flying transport that could cross continents to Feng Zhao. The assistant assigned to you should be able to reach Silver Wing by tonight. He has a flying transport license. Let him follow you out to collect materials. He can be a pilot and a bodyguard. An hour later, Silver Wing Tower, 50th floor, Virtual Projects Department. Zhuwen had finished a round of games and was stretching when he saw a young man about his age walk in. His eyes were squinting as he looked around curiously. "May I know who you are looking for?" Zhuwen asked. The young man walked over with a beaming smile. "Hello, I am Feng Zhao's new assistant arranged by the company." "That's you?" Zhuwen had heard Feng Zhao mention that the higher-ups had arranged an assistant and bodyguard for him. He had not expected the assistant to arrive so quickly, but he could not see anything special about the person in front of him. He was about the same height as Zhuwen and did not look robust. Compared to the big guys in movies, he was a far cry. However, since it was arranged by the higher-ups, Zhuwen suppressed the astonishment in his heart and put on a smile. "Hello, I am Zhuwen, the #1 technician in the Virtual Projects Department." "Hello, I am Zuoyu. May I know if Feng Zhao is around?" Zuoyu asked. "Yes, boss is in the office. Over there." Zhuwen pointed Zuoyu in the direction. "Okay, thank you." When Zuoyu arrived at Feng Zhao's office, Feng Zhao was sorting out the last draft. He had to deliver it to Xuejing tonight. "Hello. I was arranged by Boss Duan to be your assistant from today onwards. Is there anything you need me to do?" Zuoyu asked with his usual beaming face. Feng Zhao raised his head and glanced at him, thinking seriously. "Yes, please feed the dog. The automatic feeder is broken. It was sent for maintenance and has not returned yet." Zuoyu. "Okay." Although it was different from what he had imagined, Zuoyu took it seriously. It was just that the dog seemed to dislike him. It ran away whenever Zuoyu approached. After Feng Zhao finished the draft, Zuoyu drove him to Xuejing's place. On the way, Zuoyu thought Feng Zhao would ask him about the special forces. He had already thought of a way to brag about it. Unfortunately, all Feng Zhao said was his address. When they arrived at Xuejing's place, Feng Zhao told Zuoyu to go home. He would stay at Xuejing's place to finish the final proofreading. "You have 1 day to pack and get the flying transport ready. We leave at 7 a.m. the day after tomorrow," Feng Zhao said. "What's our destination?" Zuoyu asked. "I'll let you know when the time comes." Feng Zhao entered the house. After Feng Zhao disappeared, Zuoyu shook his head and curled his lips. "TSK an artist." On Monday, Duong went upstairs to look for Feng Zhao. Duong had been riding the coattails of late. As the head of the newcomers department and Feng Zhao's agent, when he was still a rookie, Duong had received a lot of compliments because of Feng Zhao's rise in popularity. He bumped into a few agents he knew in the elevator. They all struck up a conversation. "Old Du, how did you manage to poach a gem like Feng Zhao back when you were the manager of the new composers? Composing, arranging, mixing, he's an all-rounder." Duong smiled proudly. "I don't know either. I was digging, and all of a sudden I hit the jackpot." Today, the operations director, Julian, had invited everyone out for a celebration. Duong had personally made a trip to the 50th floor to ask Feng Zhao if he wanted to tag along. But when Duong arrived at the 50th floor in high spirits, Feng Zhao was nowhere to be seen. "Where's your boss?" Duong asked Zhuwen. "Out on a trip to source material," Zhuwen replied. "Out on a trip? Isn't that a paid vacation?" Duong was envious. "When is he coming back?" Chapter 80. The world's 12 continents were divided into the regular 8 and the special 4. The regular 8 were the regular continents. The other 7 were not much different from Yinzhou, but the special 4 were a little different. Zuoyu had thought that Feng Zhao would choose Lazhou or Laizhou, which were closer to Yinzhou. He had not expected that on Monday, Feng Zhao would tell him that his destination was Muzhou, one of the special 4. Muzhou was an agricultural continent. Among the 12 continents, it played the role of a granary. 80% of the world's natural foodstuffs were produced in Muzhou. In this day and age of synthetic food, natural foodstuffs were expensive. Natural foodstuffs produced in Muzhou were even more expensive, especially those from Muzhou's Su family farm, which were considered luxury goods. But despite the high prices, there were many buyers. Many families with the means to purchase natural foodstuffs produced in Muzhou. Wealthy families would buy some produce from the Su family farm every month. Other than that, Muzhou had many tourist attractions. People from other continents who had lived in high-rise buildings and forests for a long time loved to come out and see the vast land, the blue sky, and the white clouds to relax. Muzhou was vast but sparsely populated. It was said that when great General Su Mu had led his men to reclaim Muzhou, he had said that he wanted to build more farms in the areas he had reclaimed. When the new era was established, Su Mu had done the same, but many people had left Muzhou to develop in other continents. Compared to the other continents that had rapidly built high-rise cities, Muzhou was practically a land of poor farmers. They saw no hope. They had won the new era with great difficulty, and they did not want to stay here and suffer as poor farmers. The people who had followed Su Mu to stay in Muzhou had not even reached a tenth of the original number. After that, a few more batches had left, and the number of people left was even smaller. Even today, Muzhou's population was the smallest among the 12 continents in the world. Zuoyu had been to Muzhou once before. Back then, he had followed the team to participate in an exchange program and had not had much time for sightseeing. But what had left the deepest impression was Muzhou's endless pastures and farmlands. The flying transport's optimal flight altitude was limited. It could cross the ocean, but it was not suitable for leaving the atmosphere and flying into outer space. After entering Muzhou, Zuoyu flew the flying transport at a low altitude. Feng Zhao could see the vast grasslands and rivers from the window. Zuoyu was a talkative person. He had just become an assistant, and he was in a good mood for free travel. Feng Zhao did not speak, so Zuoyu tried to find a topic. "Can I call you boss? Director Duan said that my salary will be paid by you. This way we can be considered superiors and subordinates. Isn't it right to call me boss?" Zuoyu asked. Sure. Feng Zhao didn't have any requirements regarding how he was addressed. Boss, why do you want to go to Muzhou first? Could it be that he had wanted to travel here for a long time? Needless to say, Muzhou was really not bad. The people here were especially carefree. Have you heard of this saying? Muzhou landlords are as numerous as dogs. This was just people from other continents teasing Muzhou. Of course, there was also a tinge of envy and jealousy. There were many landowners in Muzhou, and as the descendants of founding era great General Su Mu, the Su family was the biggest landowner in Muzhou. If only I were a Muzhou person, I could inherit a large farm or ranch from my parents and become a carefree landlord. I could hire a bunch of cheap workers from other continents to help me with farming and herding. I wouldn't need to hire a lot of people, as long as they knew how to use the machines. After that, I could drive my own flying transport around the world. Who knows? I might even be like the Su family, owning my own spaceship and going on a long trip to a foreign planet every month. Those days TSK. Compared to other continents, the pace of life in Muzhou was too leisurely. What Zuoyu had just said was not just his own thoughts. Many tourists who came to Muzhou for a vacation would have similar thoughts. But that's just wishful thinking. There's no choice. Muzhou has restrictions. Even if you have the money, you might not be able to buy a piece of land in Muzhou. In Muzhou, only those who followed great General Su Mu back in the founding era can own large farms. This was a rule set by great General Su Mu during the founding era. Later on, people who migrated over from other continents could only buy a piece of land to use as a farm, but it was only a small one. Unless there were some special circumstances where the Su family gave them special treatment, only then could they own a large farm in Muzhou. As Zuoyu spoke, his face was filled with envy. In short, I really admire Su Mu. He has such foresight. The descendants of those who followed him to conquer Muzhou are now all big landowners. As long as they keep a piece of land, they can play all day long. They are all rich. I heard that before the period of destruction, Su Mu was a cow herder. A sheep herder? Fang Zhao interrupted. What? Before the period of destruction, Su Mu was a sheep herder, not a cow herder, Fang Zhao said. Oh, actually, the meaning is similar. I'm not good at history. I keep remembering things wrong. Zuoyu recalled that Duan Qianji had shown him information about Fang Zhao. It had indeed mentioned that Fang Zhao's history was very good, especially the history of the period of destruction. He was not inferior to many well-known historians. Looking at the color of the sky outside and the weather forecast, Zuoyu asked, "It's going to rain. This rain might be a little heavy. Should we continue on our way to Qingcheng, or find a place to stay?" The Qingcheng that Zuoyu had mentioned was not a city but a city. It was the capital of Muzhou, the political and financial center of Muzhou, and the seat of the state government. Muzhou's cemetery for martyrs was also there. Fang Zhao had also browsed through the weather news around Muzhou. After some thought he said, "Let's stop for now." Understood. Zuoyu searched for a nearby place to park his flying transport. There is a farm up ahead, where flying transport can be parked. I sent a request. Many medium to large farms in Muzhou had special parking areas for flying cars, flying transports and other forms of transportation. Because there were many tourists in Muzhou, there were quite a number of people who traveled by car, or with tour groups. Sometimes, when special circumstances called for a stopover, they would land at the nearest farm. However, the stopover was not free. There was a fee, and the fee depended on the owner. If the owner wanted to charge more, he could charge more. Who knew? If he was in a good mood, he might even let you stay for free. The owner has agreed. Only $10 an hour. Zuoyu laughed when he saw the price. The owner must be in a good mood today. This is already very cheap. I know someone who came to Muzhou for a vacation. He even charged a few $100s an hour to park his car. Fang Zhao paid for an hour because he did not know the situation at the farm. If the situation was not good, they would leave immediately. If there were no problems, it did not matter if they stopped for a while more. The traffic lights at the farm lit up, and Zuoyu landed the flying transport. Two people in farm uniforms ran over. They were probably employees hired by the owner. Fang Zhao had just stepped out of the flying transport when a young employee hurried over. "Do you need a place to stay and eat? We provide guest rooms for tourists. They are very cheap. The owner is in a good mood today, so the prices are very low. Do you need to trade for energy blocks? We have all the mainstream energy blocks here. We sell them according to market price. We don't charge any random fees." Before Fang Zhao could speak, he heard woof woof woof. From the sound, it seemed to be a large dog. The sound grew louder and louder, and Fang Zhao soon spotted the silhouette. It was a black dog more than a meter tall. It had probably seen an unfamiliar flying transport, and smelled an unfamiliar scent, so it was on guard. However, it did not approach them. Instead, it barked at Fang Zhao and Zuoyu from a distance of more than 20 meters, its fur standing on end. This was the descendant of a meritorious service dog that had stayed in Muzhou. After the end of days, there was no longer a need for meritorious service dogs to follow people onto the battlefield. Every continent had many meritorious service dogs. Other than those left behind by the military, many were kept as pet dogs and bred for generations. Most of the descendants of meritorious service dogs, living in the cities, now had the appearance of the meritorious service dogs of the past. They had grown big for nothing, but people in the new era did not need them to do much. It was better for them to be docile. Muzhou was a special case. At the beginning of the new era, Muzhou had split the remaining meritorious service dogs into two groups. One group would continue to be trained as combat dogs, and mainly remain in the military. The other group would be used as shepherd dogs, and become the helpers of farm owners. In Muzhou, dogs could not be killed casually. Many farm owners valued their shepherd dogs more than the lives of tourists. Chapter 81. Although the black dog looked huge, it still had a childish air about it. It was an underage dog, and its main job on the farm was probably not to herd but to stand guard. The black dog was quickly led away by the workers. Feng Zhao looked around the parking lot. Besides their flying transport, there was also a large flying transport and 5 flying cars. There's a tour group here, Zuyu told Feng Zhao. It's about 20 people. When the tour group noticed that the weather was not good, they would look for a good place to land. Some places in Muzhou had rapid weather changes, and the weather forecast would be broadcasted an hour in advance. Besides Feng Zhao's group, the others had also found their way here after hearing the broadcast. After all, this was the only place in the vicinity that had a flying transport. After making arrangements for their accommodations, the farm worker told Feng Zhao's group, "Today is a competition day. The farm owner and a few other small farm owners are here to watch the competition. There's also a tour group from Jizhou heading over to the viewing hall. Our farm owners' relatives are participating in today's competition. The host is in a good mood and has invited everyone to watch. Look at the time, the competition is about to start. Do you want to go? The tea and alcohol in the viewing hall are free." Besides its developed agriculture and tourism industry, Muzhou was also famous for its sheep-herding culture. Muzhou's sheep-herding competition had been around since the founding of the continent. At first, it had been organized by Great General Su Mu to entertain the pioneers. Relaxation was the key to life. However, back then, it had been a small-scale competition. Now, the sheep-herding competition had a 500-year history, and the competition had a mature system and rules. The feelings the people of Muzhou had toward the sheep-herding competition was something people from other continents could not understand. It was a form of entertainment that had accompanied generations of Muzhou people. If you were to talk to a Muzhou person about celebrities, even if it was an international celebrity, they might not be able to accurately match it up. At most, they would remember a name, a face, or have a vague impression of a certain character. But if you were to talk about those famous shepherd dogs in Muzhou, not only could they clearly recite the color of the dog's coat, height, age, the farm it belonged to, the year it competed in, the awards it had won, and so on, they could even recite the pedigree of the shepherd dog up to 3 generations back for an hour. As for the farms that the shepherd dogs belonged to, it was even more of a topic after a meal. Therefore, it was not that Muzhou did not have an entertainment industry. It was just that their entertainment industry was different from other continents. It was not without reason that shepherd dogs had a higher status than wanderers in Muzhou. Recently, Feng Zhao had been very popular in Yinzhou, but other continents might not have mentioned him much, let alone Muzhou. Until now, Zuyu had only seen him mentioned a few times in a medical electronic magazine. Other magazines and news had not mentioned him at all. However, this also saved a lot of trouble. Zuyu's work was more relaxed. He only needed to be a driver and assistant. When Feng Zhao had looked up information on Muzhou online, he had seen introductions to Muzhou's sheep-herding culture, as well as some competition videos. But he had never had the experience of watching a live broadcast. After tidying up the guest room, Feng Zhao and Zuyu followed the farm employee to the viewing hall. There were still about 40 minutes before the start of the match. When Feng Zhao and the others arrived, there were quite a number of people seated in the viewing hall, and it was very lively. The 400 square meter viewing hall was like a small movie theater. The best place to watch the movie was for the farm owners and the surrounding small farm owners. The invited guests were arranged to sit on the side. They could sit anywhere they wanted. When Feng Zhao and the others arrived, there were only a few tables left in the corner. Based on the number of chairs, each table could probably seat 4 to 6 people. However, not everyone in the tour group was familiar with each other, so there were some tables with 2 or 3 people. Feng Zhao did not have high expectations for where to sit. As long as he could see the big screen, he was fine. Right here. After being brought in by the employee through a side door, Feng Zhao chose a table and sat down. After Zuoyu entered, he glanced at the people guarding the viewing hall's main door and side door. The corners of his mouth curled up, but he quickly restrained himself. There was a security check before entering, and guns were not allowed. However, when Feng Zhao and Zuoyu entered, the people guarding there did not hear the alarm. Feng Zhao looked at the center of the viewing hall. It was obvious who the owner was. The seat was the best and largest. A seat occupied 10 square meters, and there were 2 dogs guarding it. When the flying transport landed, basic information about this farm, and some information about the owner could be found. This farm was called Shanmu Farm. The owner was Wu Yi, who was in his 80s. In the new era, 80 years old was considered middle-aged but not old. As for Wu Yi himself, he looked very fit. His face was dark, his waist was round, and he spoke in a low muffled voice. When Feng Zhao and Zuoyu came in, he glanced at them, and did not pay them much attention. He continued to discuss the possible rankings of the day's competition, with a few small farm owners. Muzhou's sheep herding competitions were not for humans, but for sheepdog teams on farms. The minimum number of dogs participating was 6, and the maximum number was 10. For every competition, 100 sheep would be released into the field. The time would start from the moment the dogs were released, until all 100 sheep were in the pens. The team that used the least time would be the day's champion. The 7 teams on the same day would be ranked according to the time they used. On every competition day, there would be a quiz and prizes. Feng Zhao looked at the quiz rewards for today. Guessing first place correctly, every bet will receive double the amount of the bet. Guessing first and second place correctly, every bet will receive 5 times the prize. Guessing first, second and third place correctly, every bet will receive 12 times the prize. Guessing the top 4 correctly, every bet will receive 30 times the prize. Guessing the top 5 correctly, every bet will receive 100 times the prize. Guessing the top 6 correctly, every bet will receive 300 times the prize. Guessing all correctly, 1,000 times the prize. According to the rules of Muzhou's sheep herding competition, one bet was worth $5. In other words, buying one bet and guessing all the rankings for the day would receive $5,000. $5 was not even worth mentioning to people who came to Muzhou for a vacation. Many people would give it a try. Of course, the number of people who guessed correctly was few and far between. In the tour group, there were quite a few first-time visitors to Muzhou. They did not know much about Muzhou's farms, and they were even more confused about the teams participating in today's competition. Watching online experts explain, the more they watched, the more confused they became. Therefore, many people strained their ears to listen to the conversation between the farm owners in the middle of the viewing area. Anyway, the farm owners' voices were loud, so no one would say anything if they were to listen openly. All they had to do was place their bets later. The big screen showed the current situation of the competition. It was a pre-competition interview with a few of the participating farms. The place where Feng Zhao and the others were resting was near the eastern border, and the competition was on the other side of Muzhou, near the center of Muzhou. The weather there was not bad. The sun shone brightly, unlike here, which was covered in dark clouds. The weather at the competition venue is very good today. Who knows? Big Sis Carilla's farm might easily take first place, a small farm owner said to Wu Yi. The third team participating today was the farm of this farm owner, Wu Yi's cousin. Wu Yi's cousin's farm was called Carilla Farm. The farm's logo was a carrot, so people who were familiar with it preferred to call it Carrot Farm. I also think they will do well. Wu Yi's face was beaming. He looked very happy. Then he placed a bet on his cousin's farm to take first place. Wow! 1 million. Pretty confident. Another small farm owner took a peek at Wu Yi's bet and exclaimed exaggeratedly. Then I'll bet some too. I'll support Big Sis Carilla. I'll bet 500,000 to support her. Me too. But I only have a small farm. I'm not as extravagant as you guys. 100,000 to support me. The farm owners around Wu Yi chatted happily. The tour group sitting to the side had complicated expressions on their faces. Before coming here, they had heard that Muzhou people were nouveau riches. The wealth of an unremarkable small farm exceeded their imaginations. Today, they had experienced it firsthand. This bunch of people did not need to go to work, did not need to work tirelessly. All they had to do was guard their small plot of land, and they could have fun. Envy, envy, envy to the point of death. Hey, you outsiders, are you interested in playing around? How can you not participate in a sheep herding contest when you come to Muzhou? Who knows, you might win quite a bit, a farm owner said to the tour group. The tour group leader just smiled and said, I'll just place a bet. It's just a little fun, just a little fun. However, a lot of people in the tour group were interested. They even took the initiative to chat with a few farm owners. The farm owners shared their experiences and explained the rules of the competition to the tour group. For example, they explained how to look for the lead dog in the team, how to find the leader, how to position them, and how to cooperate with each other. Boss, should we follow? Zuoyu asked Feng Zhao. He did not have much money on hand to play this game. Even if he played, it was just a small bet. He could not afford to throw money around like these local nouveau riches. But Feng Zhao was different. He knew very well how much money Feng Zhao could rake in from his 4 movements. MMHM. Feng Zhao did not say much else. Instead, he browsed through the information and videos on the internet. They were all about the shepherd dog teams from the few farms that had participated in the contest. While Wu Yi was chatting with the others, he glanced around and realized that the people from the tour group had already gathered together to discuss. Only the last 2 people who had come to his farm were still seriously looking through the team's previous competition videos. In their hands, they were even scribbling something down on a paper notebook. Acting like they know a lot, Wu Yi whispered. He had seen many foreigners come to Muzhou to participate in the contest. Before the contest, they would analyze and calculate, but in the end, they would come up with nothing. Muzhou's shepherd dogs were not something that foreigners could easily understand. Even some famous dog behaviorists would be lucky to win 5 out of 10 guessing games. There were also some foreign herdsmen who thought they knew a lot who came here to place their bets. But in the end, they just left in silence. That was why Wu Yi had always advised foreigners who came to Muzhou not to look at the analysis online. They should just place their bets based on their gut feeling. Who knew they might even win a few more times? The analysis online was mostly a smokescreen used to confuse one's clear mind. Without a Muzhou native professional to impart their experience, no one could make a killing in Muzhou's competition. Bets were stopped 10 minutes before the start of the contest. Feng Zhao placed his bet 2 minutes before the time limit. Chapter 82. Although a few generations of robot dogs had been developed for herding and allowed farm owners to better control the situation, the old way of herding with shepherd dogs had been preserved. When the weather was bad, or when there were unforeseen factors that affected power and network systems, these figures that ran like the wind on the grass were still the most useful. The people of Muzhou were also willing to preserve this culture. Although people from other continents had criticized this kind of herding culture many times, saying that it had lost the original purpose of Great General Su Mu's competition and had become capitalistic and profit-driven, the sheep herding competition still continued to be held. Because the people who benefited the most were always the people of Muzhou. Every year was a new sheep herding competition season. The season lasted from the beginning to the end. At the beginning of the season, it was just a simple sheep herding competition. After that, teams with the highest scores would be selected to move on to the next round of competition. The difficulty increased with every round. And what Feng Zhao and the others were watching now was just the beginning of the competition, so the difficulty was not considered high. Feng Zhao had never heard it before. But during the end of days, he had heard a lot from his old friend Su Mu. In private gatherings with a few old friends, Su Mu loved to talk about his herding experience. Even during the later stages of the end of days, when he could no longer remember, what the normal world was like, he still remembered his herding experience clearly. His method of managing his team had been adapted from his herding experience. Feng Zhao had also learned about shepherd dogs from Su Mu. In Su Mu's team, there were the most combat dogs. There were also a few dog teams that cooperated with each other in battle. After the catastrophe, sheep were no longer the same as they had been before the end of days. After being bred and selected by the Academy of Agricultural Sciences, sheep raised for animal husbandry had been restored to their pre-apocalyptic form, except that they were larger in size and less soft in temperament. The competition on the big screen began. Team number 1 has started to herd. The commentator at the competition venue started to get excited. Herding was the ability of the shepherd dogs to circle around the sheep and gather the flock. Muzhou veterans could determine the ability of the shepherd team just by looking at herding. The farm owners of the teams were basically the shepherd's instructors. In the early years of Muzhou's sheep herding competitions, there were people inside directing the shepherds. But later on, when everyone realized it was not that difficult, they started to isolate the people inside and let the shepherds work on their own. The people could only stand outside and watch, but they had 3 chances to instruct. When the shepherds were not doing well, the farm owners would request for a projector. The projector would project the projector at a designated location, and the farm owners would use hand signals and a baton to instruct the dogs to continue. The first team encountered some trouble along the way. Dog C of the first team made a mistake. To the side. Pay attention to the side. You still haven't changed. The commentator said loudly. Oh, the farm owner of the first team requested for a projector to instruct. There's no other way. If you don't correct it in time, it will be dangerous if you lose the sheep. Because it was easy to lose the sheep when herding on one side, 100 sheep had to be herded into the fence to be considered complete. Therefore, dogs that could not change their one-sided herding habits were not suitable for the competition. And some dogs, even if they could change, would still make mistakes sometimes. Team number 1 was one of them. The farm owner did not get angry. He just smiled bitterly and requested for a projector. Using hand signals and a baton, he instructed the shepherd dog that had made a mistake to run back to the correct position. Although the shepherd dog that ran to the wrong side finally returned to the correct position, due to the guidance of its owner's projection, it was still delayed. 8 minutes and 5 seconds was not a very good result. Generally, at this level of competition, a result within 7 minutes was considered acceptable. After the first team finished, the second team began. Because one of the shepherd dogs was too careless when herding the sheep, it didn't control its strength and caused the sheep to bleed. Therefore, according to the punishment, the competition time was increased by 15 seconds. The final result was 8 minutes and 1 second, which was slightly better than the first team. The third team was the team that had been the subject of much discussion among the farm owners. Many people from the tour group had also placed bets on it. Oh, the third team is using a circular herding style. Positioning. Positioning. Sealing off the front. Beautiful. The commentator on the stage shouted. The farm owners in front of Feng Zhao were getting excited. My darlings. Positioning. Pay attention to positioning. Don't make any mistakes. Wu Yi shouted from his recliner. No matter how loud he was, no one could hear him. Hurry up. Missed. Missed. Back again. Good. The farm owner stood up. He wanted to rush to the scene and shove the shepherd dog that had almost run off course. Head sheep, find the head sheep. Good. Very good. Yes, that's the one. Control it. Feng Zhao watched on the screen as the sheep ran across the green meadow, barking wildly as they herded the scattered sheep together. Farm owners, whether they were watching from the arena or watching the live broadcast from afar, were as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Even the dog beside Wu Yi was glued to the screen. The members of the tour group were stunned by the farm owner's ferocious behavior. They probably had not expected these people to be so excited about a dog herding sheep. However, a few of the younger ones had probably bet on the third team. Although they did not understand positioning or sealing off the front, They could see the general situation on the screen and the constantly changing timer on the top right corner of the screen. They gathered the sheep and drove them to the destination. When the commentator shouted "done," the farm owners in the viewing hall roared in unison. 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Number 3's carrot farm is currently in first place. They are ahead of second and third place by more than 2 minutes. Looks like today's first place has been decided early, the commentator said. The results of this competition could be considered excellent. After it was completed, the screen also showed some expert analysis of the performance of each shepherd dog in the sheep herding competition that had just ended. From the video capture technology, they analyzed the changes and characteristics of their limbs and joints during the process of sheep herding. They greatly praised the physical fitness of the shepherd dogs. Big Sis Carla's farm is going to be popular again, a small farm owner said enviously. Haha. When the time comes, I have to get my big sis to help me. Wu-Yi was also very happy about his cousin's farm's results. Do you know who the head dog of that team is? King Kong. That's the father of our Black Fatty. Where's Black Fatty? Black Fatty! Wu-Yi shouted. Not long after, the black dog that had barked at Feng Zhao and the others rushed in. It wagged its tail vigorously in front of Wu-Yi and whined like a spoiled child. Compared to the other dogs in the sheep herding competition, this dog was indeed a little chubbier. After scooping the dog to the side, Wu-Yi continued speaking to the people around him. Many people might not be familiar with the name King Kong, but I'm sure you all know the name of his great-grandmother. Whirlwind. Oh, the one that won the Best of the Season award more than a decade ago. I heard it was worth tens of millions back then. Yes. That's the one. Speaking of which, our Black Fatty is a descendant of a famous family. A few farm owners started talking about the Best of the Season award. When they mentioned descendant of a famous family, the tour group beside them were dumbfounded. How magical. A dog that herds sheep was worth more than all of them combined. After bragging about his own dog's pedigree, Wu-Yi slowly sipped his wine and glanced at Team 4's actions on the screen. He turned his head to look at the tour group and said, "Surprised at the value of our Muzhou shepherd dogs? I know that many people from other continents live lives worse than our Muzhou dogs." It was ear-piercing, but when the people of Muzhou said it, they did not mean to belittle them. It was just a statement. The people of Muzhou valued shepherd dogs very much. Some well-known dogs had a higher status than people from other continents. That was why many shepherd dogs in Muzhou were even more arrogant than people, showing off their master's power to the fullest. Many people from other continents want to come to Muzhou to live. It's a pity that Muzhou land is not open to foreigners, Wu-Yi said, crossing his legs. Their ancestors who had cultivated this land had some stories that had been passed down from generation to generation. They had also heard some stories since they were young. What was most clear was that when the land was being cultivated, some people had voluntarily given up on this piece of land. Everyone had their own ambitions, and there was nothing much to say. But when they saw that the land was getting better, they regretted it and wanted to come back. Sorry, you guys had better stay in other continents. From a human perspective, they viewed those who left and regretted it as traitors. From a profit perspective, no one wished for their own large piece of land, as well as the land that had yet to be cultivated and could be given to their descendants, to be divided among newcomers. Of course, they would unite to exclude outsiders. If you left, don't come back. That was why the people of Muzhou huddled together. Ever since Jianzhou, there had not been a single foreigner who had managed to win a large farm in Muzhou. However, it was not that there were no other ways to obtain land from Muzhou. In Muzhou's sheep herding competition, during the finals there was a land option for the prize. Winning a piece of land from Muzhou's sheep herding competition was the dream of many people from other continents. It was just that this dream had never been realized by a foreigner. On the screen, the results of Team 4 and Team 5 were not as good as Team 3. It seemed that, as the commentator had said, Team 3 had won first place. Wu-Yi smiled, but it was not as ecstatic as the tour group had imagined. The tour group was still thinking, no wonder he's a Muzhou nouveau riche. He probably doesn't care about the money he earns. On the other hand, a few people from the tour group, who had spent quite a lot on Team 3's first place, were very excited. Zui looked at his own betting slip and smacked his lips. Alright, I shouldn't place too much hope on the artist next to me. But when the competition reached the final round, when Team 7 started to herd, the farm owners were especially serious. When Team 3 came out, the farm owners were very happy. They discussed loudly and cheered Team 3 on with bared fangs and brandished claws. But when it came to Team 7, although they did not seem as excited, their eyes were filled with intense anticipation and the fires of forbearance. The experienced tour leader sighed to himself. Based on his understanding of the people from Muzhou, he was afraid that Team 7 was the real target. Who said that one person could only bet on one team? The farm owners might have bought a team of people they knew out of goodwill. But they probably had other plans in the dark. Team 7 was very incisive from the start. The commentator raised his voice once again. Team 7 has 8 dogs, and they are using a pear-shaped formation. Good, very good. Seal off the front. The speed at which they gather the sheep is very fast. Release the seal. Beautiful. Perfect coordination. Drive. Start to drive forward. Pay attention to the eyes of the lead dog. Lead dog, watch the lead dog. The A dog of Team 7. This is a dog with a murderous aura. It has found a sheep in the herd. Pay attention. They stare at each other for a brief moment. Suppress. Impressive. This is its first official sheep herding competition. But I can see it is the best of the day. No, I think this new dog is going to rise. The commentator was very excited. You could even hear the sound of him slapping the table. Just the sound of his hands herding. An outstanding sheepdog could control the lead sheep of the herd with just a stare, suppressing its restless, rebellious emotions. And this sort of suppression from the stare was much more effective than barking and biting. In the pen. All in the pen. 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 6 seconds. 4 minutes and 6 seconds. Team 7, 4 minutes and 6 seconds. With an absolute advantage. They are first place in today's competition. The people from the tour group, who had just been excited about how much money they could win, were now dumbfounded. Team 7 first place. Team 3 had been pushed to second place. How was that possible? Zhuoyu was also stunned. He looked at the big screen that displayed the rankings of the 7 teams in today's sheep herding competition, then looked at his own bets. He coughed lightly, picked up his teacup, and gulped down a cup of water to calm himself down. Zhuoyu had followed Fang Zhao's bets. Unlike those who only bet on first place, or guessed the entire rankings, Fang Zhao had bet on the ranking of the top 5 teams, and placed 20,000 bets in one go. Chapter 83. When the rankings came out, some people were happy, while others were worried. A few people in the tour group who had been in high spirits were now sighing, as if they had been hit by frost. However, the others were just playing around. They didn't buy much and didn't feel bad about it. They were more curious about the farm owners who had placed bets on Team 3. The farm owners who were sitting there did not look too dejected. They even had smiles on their faces, as they discussed the possibility of the 7th team making it to the semi-finals of the Eastern Conference and the finals of the continent. After all, the leading dog of the 7 teams today was too sharp. Shoubei Farm is really ambitious this year. 2 years ago they were just average. I heard they had a trump card this year, and they've been treating it like a treasure. Shoubei Farm doesn't have to spend money on advertising this year. That dog is the best advertisement. Who knows, it might even pull in some big investors. I'm so jealous. On the screen, the commentator seemed to like the lead dog of Team 7. Shoubei Farm's 7th team takes first place today. Lead dog A is the best of the day. Let's take a look at its profile. It's a 1-year-old golden shepherd dog, Golden Colt, making its first appearance in a competition. Many onlookers are flocking over. They probably want to take photos with Golden Colt. There are many tourists from other continents. Zhuoyu glanced at the introduction on the screen and whispered to Fang Zhao. Boss, how do you know that dog will win? Intuition. Fang Zhao replied. The dog did look fierce, and its eyes were very sharp. Perhaps many people would think that the dog was too aggressive and impulsive when it came out to pasture, but in fact, it was not the kind of dog that was very aggressive. It was very restrained and smart, like a well-trained soldier that knew when to carry out a certain task. It was indeed the case. It led the other dogs in the team, and carried out the coach's daily training very well. When Fang Zhao had seen the dog when he'd looked up the information on each team, he'd felt something familiar. It reminded him of the combat dogs that had existed during the end of days. Although Golden Colt was still a distance away from the combat dogs of the past, it had done a good job as a shepherd dog in the new era. Combined with some of the experience his old friend Sumu had imparted to Fang Zhao, he had chosen Team 7 to win first place. As for the other teams, Fang Zhao had ranked them according to the results of his analysis. There was also a certain amount of luck involved. As for the 6th and 7th places, there were too many variables, so Fang Zhao had only placed bets on the order of the top 5. Sigh. Looks like Muzhou's farm owners are used to playing this game. They don't feel the pinch even after throwing so much money into it, someone whispered. Hearing this, Wu Yi snickered to himself. Don't feel heartache. How could this be? Did they really think that their money fell from the sky? But this time, his cousin's farm was participating, so he had to give her some face. When the time came, he still had to show the betting slip to others. This was proof of his support. Maybe his cousin would be happy and give him another puppy. Why wasn't he depressed? When he placed his bet, his wife also placed $1 million on Shobei Farm in the 7th team. Although he really wanted his cousin's farm to win, compared to the other teams in the same team, the news about Shobei Farm this year was a little shocking. So he asked his wife to place another bet. The two of them placed their bets. Overall, they did not win any money. They even had to pay some taxes, but the taxes were small amounts. As long as they did not make a loss, it was fine. Wu Yi was still very satisfied. Other small farm owners had definitely placed bets on Team 7 in secret, but they would not say it out loud, especially not to people from other continents. He could not wait for people from other continents to bet with him. Even if they lost, they could still contribute to Muzhou. Every year, the Muzhou government spent a lot of money and manpower on improving the land, crops, and animal husbandry. It was used for technological development and construction, and every year, the sheep herding competition sucked in a lot of money from Muzhou tourists. Regarding this, farm owners were very happy. They were very happy to scam others. Wu Yi was very happy to see those tourists from other continents throwing money. Catching a glimpse of their dejected looks, Wu Yi was secretly happy. But when his gaze swept to Fang Zhao's table, he paused. Hey, those two fellas over there, did you place your bets just now? How did it go? Wu Yi asked loudly. Looking at you guys, you should have won, right? They were not people waiting to die. If they did not have the slightest bit of brains, how could they manage a medium-sized farm steadily? Wu Yi's ability to discern people's thoughts from their body language was quite good. The two over there had smiles on their faces. Even if they had not made a killing, they had definitely placed their bets. Hey, someone placed their bets on first place? The tour group members looked toward Fang Zhao's table curiously. Fang Zhao was not smiling because he had placed his bets. He was smiling because he recalled Sumu's story about how to train a shepherd dog. Hearing Wu Yi's question, he replied, not bad luck. He really placed his bets on Team 7? A small farm owner asked in astonishment. He knew that even before the competition, many people from Muzhou thought highly of Team 3. It was just that they had heard some rumors and had other plans. If this was the case for the locals, how did the foreigners manage to pick the 7th team? Furthermore, in previous competitions, Team 7's results had not been much. Today it was because they had changed dogs that they had suddenly become so ferocious. Foreigners placing bets on Shobei Farm was indeed very rare. Looking at that dog, I think it's not bad. Fang Zhao raised his chin toward the big screen. On the screen was a replay of Team 7's appearance, focusing on analyzing the lead dog, Gold Colt. Not just that, Wu Yi suddenly said. Since you could tell that Team 7 had a chance of winning, then you definitely did not just place your bets on first place. You also placed bets on the others? You placed bets on second and third place, right? Friend, let us broaden our horizons. Which ones did you place your bets on? As he spoke, Wu Yi got up and walked over. He sat across the table from Feng Zhao, a warm smile on his face. Top 5, Feng Zhao replied. Wu Yi felt that he had not heard clearly and asked again. What? I placed bets on the top 5. All, correct? Not bad luck. Wu Yi was stunned for a moment, then his face broke into a big smile. Haha, impressive, impressive. Let's be friends. Is this your first time in Muzhou? If you have any questions, you can ask me. It's been a few years since I've seen someone who has guessed 5 bets. And it's on my farm. Haha, that's a good thing. Wu Yi gestured for the workers to bring out the food. He had to have a good chat with someone. Top 5. Does he mean that he placed bets on the exact ranking of the top 5? The tour group that was eavesdropping was flabbergasted. After all, one wrong bet was a failure. Only by accurately guessing the top 5 bets would it be considered a success. Wait, let me see how much the bonus for placing a bet on the top 5 bets is. 100 times. How many bets did that kid place? I don't know. Should we go ask? Hey, he won't say how many bets he placed. It's a waste of time to ask. An older man said with a tone of experience. Just as he finished speaking, he heard Wu Yi ask the same question. How many bets did he place? Wu Yi asked. 20,000, Feng Zhao replied. Wu Yi. The small farm owners that had gathered over. The tour group members. An 8 or 9-year-old child from the tour group did the math and whispered to his father. That brother said he placed 20,000 bets, and each bet is $5. That means that brother placed a bet of $100,000. If he guessed the top 5 correctly, he would get a 100-fold bonus. Is that 10 million? The kid's father forced a smile. Yes. He had placed 10,000 bets on Team 3 behind his wife's back. He had wanted to show off to his wife and children after winning and buy more things, but now, he had better shut up. Forgive my poor eyesight, I didn't notice. I heard that you are a friend from Yinzhou. A few small farm owners smiled warmly. In some places, people made friends through literature. In others, they made friends through alcohol. In Muzhou, it was probably through sheep herding. When it came to other topics, such as farming and management, although they would say a few words, they were reserved. No matter how much you said, who knew if you were bragging? They also couldn't follow the tourists to verify the authenticity. Without seeing it with their own eyes, the credibility would be reduced. But the sheep herding competition was different. Watching the competition together was just a preliminary interaction. If you were in the right order of the competition, the farm owners would be more than willing to talk to you about life. They would think that you were very capable and a good person. So when they found out that Feng Zhao had not only placed first in the competition, but also in the top 5, their attitudes toward Feng Zhao changed immediately. They saw him as someone with similar interests. Originally, there had only been Feng Zhao and Zuoyu at the table, but now it became crowded. A few small farm owners couldn't find chairs, and pulled over from neighboring tables to squeeze in. The center of the viewing hall shifted from the central area to the table in the corner. Placing in the top 5 isn't easy. 3rd and 4th place should be about the same. I'd believe you if you said it was luck. But if you said it was all luck, that would be a joke. Friend, you have a shepherd dog, right? Wu Yi asked. Never had one, Feng Zhao replied. The farm owners expressed their disbelief. If he really didn't understand shepherd dogs, how could he have so accurately judged the rankings? Luck. Even if luck played a role, it was definitely not a big factor. You definitely have a shepherd dog, and not just one. A small farm owner beside him chimed in. I really don't have one. I do have a dog, but I only have one. I picked it up, and it's not a shepherd dog. It's not big, Feng Zhao replied seriously. Zuoyu wanted to laugh when he imagined that curly-haired little dog charging into the farm and barking at the flock of sheep, but the flock of sheep calmly grazing on the grass. After that, Wu Yi invited Feng Zhao to have dinner with his family. In Muzhou, A farm owner inviting a family member for dinner was a sign of respect and recognition. Wu Yi did not care about the other people in the tour group. To him, they did not have a common language. They could go wherever they wanted. Feng Zhao asked Wu Yi about Muzhou's history. The information he had obtained from the internet was different from what he had learned from Muzhou locals. Wu Yi said a lot, mentioning everything that was not available on the internet. When he heard Feng Zhao ask about the Su family, Wu Yi felt that Feng Zhao might be trying to get in touch with the Su family. Right now Muzhou is still the Su family's Muzhou. The sheep herding competition is also organized by them. If you want to find the Su family to discuss business, I'm afraid it will be hard to find them. If you want to bet on the sheep herding competition, listen to my advice. Don't be too ostentatious. Just earn enough. You have good foresight. It's not that the Su family will do anything, but it will be troublesome. Wu Yi had only said so much because he had seen Feng Zhao betting so much money in one go, and he had been so accurate. He was a decent person, and he was not weak. In Muzhou, the Su family accounts for 70% of the people who correctly guessed the top 5, and the entire rankings. If you had not said you had nothing to do with the Su family, I would have thought you were some illegitimate child of the Su family. Old grudges between rich families are hard to explain. So if you want to get in touch with the Su family, you better think twice. Picking the wrong people will be troublesome. Wu Yi only dared to say this in front of Feng Zhao. Chapter 84. The next day the weather was not bad. Feng Zhao did not stay long at Shanmu Farm, and set off for Qingqing. Wu Yi could not bear to part with Feng Zhao. The day before, he had been exchanging experiences with shepherd dogs with Feng Zhao. The more they talked, the more he felt that Feng Zhao knew a lot. Feng Zhao's experience could be applied to Muzhou's shepherd dogs. This made Wu Yi's attitude toward Feng Zhao even warmer. He tried to persuade Feng Zhao to stay, but to no avail. Before Feng Zhao set off, he personally sent him off. When you have time, bring your little curly hair over to play. Let's have a friendly competition. My farm can't compare to those big farms that can host official competitions, but we still have grassland to play on. Don't you believe me? Dogs have a very strong learning ability. Even if they don't know how to graze, they can learn after running around with my dogs. If you guys come again in the future, I won't charge you for staying. Just give me a heads up. If you need any produce, you can let me know. I'll leave some for you. As Wu Yi spoke, he directed the people to carry the bags of various agricultural products onto the flying transport. Wu Yi felt that Feng Zhao had taught him a lot during their chat the day before, and felt apologetic. He felt that taking advantage of a junior at his age was too much, so he had people prepare a lot of gifts for Feng Zhao. Although he did not like foreigners, he was still very fond of people like Feng Zhao. That was how he was. If he liked someone and got along, he would treat them well. If he did not get along, he would not spare a glance. On the way from Shanmu Farm to Qingqing, the weather was not bad. There were no disruptions to the flight. Although most of Muzhou was farmland, every city had a central district. Like other continents, there were many tall buildings. It was just that the distance between the buildings was rather far, so there would not be a situation like a black street. Every city had a sheep herding arena. It was a place of celebration and cultural heritage in every city. As the capital of Muzhou, Qingqing not only had a large farm, but its central business district was also rather luxurious. It had the world's largest sheep herding arena. From the outskirts of Qingqing to the central business district, it was like going through two extremes. One was a natural and primitive farming area. The other was a high-tech hub of the new era. Qingqing had a special place for flying transports. Transports from other continents like Feng Zhao's were restricted in Qingqing, and they were not allowed to enter the cemetery for martyrs. Therefore, if Feng Zhao and the others wanted to go to the cemetery, they had to choose another option. After parking his flying transport, Feng Zhao hailed a taxi and headed to the cemetery of martyrs. Like Yenzhou's cemetery for martyrs, Muzhou's cemetery for martyrs had a similar layout. There was a plaza, a grand monument, a scattered burial area, a public memorial area, a memorial hall, and so on. Everyone knew that Muzhou's cemetery for martyrs had a special place, the cemetery for meritorious service dogs. Other cemeteries might also have meritorious service dogs buried, but there were not as many as in Muzhou, and there would not be a dedicated cemetery like in Muzhou to bury dogs. Feng Zhao also knew that, at that time, Su Mu's team had the most dogs among all the teams. During the war, many combat dogs had indeed died. The purpose of their existence was to coordinate with humans in battle, and when necessary, they would die in place of humans. After the founding era, Su Mu presiding over the establishment of such a place was indeed within Feng Zhao's expectations. The cemetery for meritorious service dogs was also one of the reasons Muzhou's shepherd dogs had such a high status. At the entrance of the cemetery for meritorious service dogs was a statue of Great General Su Mu and a dog. Feng Zhao recognized that dog. Among all the dogs Su Mu had raised, he had the deepest affection for this dog. Before Feng Zhao had passed away in his previous life, this dog had fought alongside Su Mu in Muzhou. After Feng Zhao had been reborn, he had learned from history books that this dog had saved Su Mu's life. Otherwise, there would not have been a Su Mu among the great generals of the founding era. However, that dog had not lived to see the founding era. Arriving at the cemetery's core area, the identity verification process took some time. Because Feng Zhao was a foreigner, the verification process was more detailed. Zuiyu's verification process took even longer. That's how it is. Outside of Yenzhou, many special places have troublesome verification procedures. It's very troublesome, Zuiyu told Feng Zhao. Even if you pass the verification process and enter the cemetery's core area, you will be checked again by the cemetery guards. Cemetery guards? Yes, they are the people who were transferred here to guard the cemetery. They are a group of people with strong instincts. Most of them are transferred police officers. Every year, they take turns to guard the cemetery. Their noses are sharper than a dog's. Our instructor said that his former comrades are qualified to guard the cemetery. During Memorial Day, they were even transferred to guard the cemetery's core area. Just as Zuiyu finished speaking, someone came over. They had just entered the core area when a cemetery guard came over to check. He must have sensed my special identity, Zuiyu said to Feng Zhao in a low voice. He had come from the special forces, so it was understandable that these people would have their eyes on him so quickly. As the other party approached, Zuiyu took the initiative to show his identification. After looking at Zuiyu's identification, the man turned to Feng Zhao. Sorry, please show me your identification. When checking Feng Zhao's identity information, the other party even raised his head to look at Feng Zhao a few times, especially when Feng Zhao's identity information indicated that his occupation was composer. His flabbergasted gaze swept back and forth a few times, as if he didn't believe it. After the police officer left, Zuiyu asked Feng Zhao curiously, "Why did they take longer to check you than I did?" This was something Zuiyu did not understand. "Probably because I am more dangerous than you," Feng Zhao replied. Hehe. Zuiyu did not believe it. Feng Zhao did not care what Zuiyu thought. He walked over to the towering tombstone and looked at the relief sculpture. The relief sculpture depicted the battle situation in Muzhou's war zone. There were even the silhouettes of cooperating dogs. Other than that, there was another relief sculpture depicting a few figures chatting and laughing together. It was not as serious as during the battle, and it seemed a little casual. They were all old friends. One of them was Feng Zhao from his previous life. Feng Zhao looked at the relief sculpture and smiled. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He walked around the large tombstone and walked to the rows of smaller tombstones behind it. However, when Feng Zhao walked over, he realized that at the first tombstone in the first row, there was a person sitting there. He looked to be about 13 or 14 years old. He was a little chubby, and his head was resting on his knees. Feng Zhao could not see his face, but looking at the wet stains on the ground and the dripping saliva, he knew this chubby kid was sleeping. Running to the cemetery to sleep? And in the core area of Muzhou's largest cemetery for martyrs, sleeping in front of the first tombstone in the first row. And no one cared if he was drooling all over the ground. Given the vigilance of the cemetery guards and the strict management of the cemetery, it was impossible for such a situation to occur. Unless this person had a special status, for example, a Sioux family member. Only members of the Sioux family would sit here and sleep, and the caretakers of the cemetery would not chase them away. "Hey kid." Feng Zhao gently nudged the person sitting in front of the tombstone. "Ah, what?" That person raised his head, looking dazed. He raised his hand to wipe the saliva from the corner of his mouth, and then turned his hand to the side. Just as he was about to touch the tombstone, he quivered and retracted his hand, as if he had been electrocuted. He wiped his hand on his clothes, and turned his head to look at the tombstone. Seeing that there was no saliva on it, he let out a sigh of relief. When he saw the kid's face, Feng Zhao knew who he was. Su Ho, a member of the Su family. Recently, there had been a lot of news about his family. Feng Zhao had seen it when he was looking up the news. Su Ho also had an older brother and 2 younger sisters. According to their birth order, they were named Wang, Ho General and Xiang. However, Su Ho's father had many lovers and had many children. There was quite a bit of competition in this generation. Su Ho's older brother, Su Wang, was obsessed with the Academy of Agricultural Sciences. His 2 younger sisters were still young, and Su Ho only knew how to eat. Recently, many people in Muzhou had been paying attention to the fact that Su Ho's father would choose among his many children to give away a farm first. He had even set up a bet. There were many people in the Su family, and Su Ho's father could be considered one of the more capable ones. Recently, the Su family had been in the news. The media had reported that Su Ho's father had revealed during a cocktail party that he would give away a farm to his children. As for who it would be given to, he had not said. Muzhou people loved to listen to gossip, especially gossip about Muzhou's wealthy Su family. Whenever there was news about the Su family, they would pay attention to this area. Su Ho was probably one of the reasons for the strict security checks when entering the core district. Although Memorial Day had passed, and the cemetery had started to become deserted, the core district should not have so few people. Waking up from his daze, the chubby boy wiped his saliva and looked at Feng Zhao and Zuoyu warily. "Who are you?" After asking, he turned his head and scanned his surroundings. When he saw the cemetery guards in police uniforms not far away, the chubby boy heaved a sigh of relief. "We are here to pay our respects." Feng Zhao looked at the injury on the chubby boy's forehead. "This injury is from a knock, right? Don't you want to go to the hospital?" Based on current medical standards, this injury on the chubby boy's forehead was nothing. It would heal in 2 days. "Not going." The chubby boy was furious when he heard about the injury on his forehead. "No treatment." Feng Zhao did not press him. He examined the injury on the chubby boy's forehead and asked, "You kowtowed? This is more than 8 or 10 kowtows." "Not only that, I kowtowed 49 times. Su Ho rubbed the injury on his forehead. Just thinking about it made him angry. "You kowtowed for General Sumu?" Feng Zhao asked with a smile. Su Ho's injury had not been inflicted today. It had probably been a day. It was just that he had refused treatment and looked a little scary. The mind of a child at that age always seems to be unpredictable. "Nope. General Sumu only needed to kowtow here 3 times. I was sent to Yenzhou to kowtow," Su Ho said angrily. "Yenzhou? Which relative in Yenzhou needs you to kowtow so many times?" Feng Zhao asked. "Not a relative. It's a friend of an elder. Every year someone is sent to pay respects. My brothers and sisters even lied to me, saying that the more I kowtow, the more the elder will bless me." In the end, after I kowtowed, they said there was no need to adhere to formalities and laughed at me for being silly. Zuoyu thought to himself, "Your brothers and sisters probably did not expect you to be silly enough to take it seriously. This IQ. Is he really a member of the Su family? We are from Yenzhou. Who did you kowtow to? Let me see if you know him," Zuoyu asked. "You are from Yenzhou? Do you know this Feng Zhao person?" You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.